community's current needs and priorities, we continue the steady financial progress we've seen over the last few years. Thanks to Measure H, the city is still able to increase service levels in this budget that were not possible several years ago. From improving parks to fixing sidewalks and increased tree trimming, the city is still able to address the years of deferred maintenance and improve the quality of life of our residents. In the presentations ahead, you'll see the city's resilience and forward-thinking strategies to uphold the trust of our community to responsibly allocate their taxpayer dollars in a manner that is transparent, responsive, and effectively meets the essential needs of our residents. Our presentations will demonstrate that we are confident in our ability to sustain our daily operations without compromise and continue to invest in financial pathways for future growth. This growth is seen in our current efforts to seek out all sports and entertainment options for our city that will enrich the lives of our residents and transform the city's progress towards economic development in the future. I would like to thank our staff who have been instrumental in preparing the proposed city budget and their unwavering commitment to build the trust through transparency, communication, and quality of services for the better Modesto. I will now turn it over to Steve Christian, Director of Office of Performance Management and Budget, to give an overview of our budget.
Thank you, Joe. Stephen, before you get started, would every presenter, before they do their presentation, please be so kind as to let us know whether what we have in our binder is correct or we need to refer to an updated version? Okay, thank you.
This is the correct presentation in your binder.
Thank you.
So you're good to go. Okay, Steve Christensen, Office of Performance Management and Budget, or OPMB as we like to call it, Director. So we want to start again. This budget process began for council back in January. There was a couple of retreats. So looking over kind of those council retreats in January, really went over the highlights of the first community survey. We reported out on the outcomes of the 2020-25 five-year strategic plan and those elements that were accomplished by the departments. And then we also had a discussion and consideration of the multi-year budget, movement to a multi-year budget process, and then the two-year strategic plan. As we went into February, we had the second of the workshops for council. There was much more discussion and interaction amongst the council members to kind of go through what they thought was important, including in those strategic plan as part of those elements. And then there was also direction provided on the multi-year budget process. So again, the outcomes at that time, council directed us to move forward with the two-year budget process, which we'll be presenting tonight. Just again, I will probably state this, 5-6 million times during the presentation, but we are only adopting 25-26. The 26-27 years that you see throughout the presentations, those are just projected. So we will have to come back next fiscal year to refine those numbers and bring them back to the Finance Committee and then Council for adoption. So we're only doing 25-26, but you will see those projected years. Again, we had the insightful and productive discussion. A lot of the strategic elements have changed that will go into that two-year strategic plan. Throughout these presentations, the city manager mentioned it in his opening. Those are things that will be presented by the departments on how their budgets going forward are taking into account those priorities that were discussed and put into that two-year strategic plan as part of those strategic elements. This is a long list. I won't go through every single one of these. But again, these are the various elements that were included. I apologize for the text size. I tried to get in the information on this. But the goals have not changed. There was some rewording on a few of them, but the goals generally are the same. What has changed are all of the bullet points underneath. So these are all the elements based off the discussion in the retreat, the information brought forward by the departments that have now become part of this new two-year strategic plan. So again, going through, we have the goal A, improving the community safety. Goal B, looking to enhance Modesto's diverse neighborhoods and business districts. And then goal C, about the public partnership with public agencies and other stakeholders to develop that comprehensive housing and homelessness action plan. Going on to the other goals, we have goal D through F. So goal D is looking to provide a safe, efficient, and reliable infrastructure. Goal E is looking at driving the success of a vibrant and economically sustainable business climate. And then Goal F, looking to build and implement the comprehensive marketing strategy. There was a lot of discussion about that during the retreats, so that is a main point there under Goal F. And then Goal G through J, we have Goal G advancing the pro-growth economic development strategy, focusing on downtown sports and entertainment. Goal H, looking to achieve the long-term financial sustainability. And then Goal I, looking to promote the trust and engagement between the community and the city by enhancing those areas. And then the last one, Goal J, to build a high-performance organization. Remember, too, with the strategic plan, it's not just 2 years, set it and forget it. We'll come back next year, have workshops, more discussion will be had to where maybe priorities change. That's the idea of going to the 2 year instead of a 5 year, making it more nimble so we can change, or council can change those strategic plan elements for what the new priorities are. So looking into the fiscal year 25-26 and then 26-27 general fund draft proposed budget. Revenues, so as the city manager mentioned about the economic uncertainty that we're seeing right now, a lot of that's mainly driven in our sales tax area. So you'll see the declines there in sales tax from the current fiscal year to the draft proposed year, with a slight increase in 26-27. Again, that can change. That's just based off of what we're seeing and what the uncertainty is. Hoping that it isn't a long recession, but again, every day I'm sure everyone's reading news articles and we're seeing things change 3 or 4 times a day. So we are closely monitoring that with sales tax. Property tax over the years, you can see increases there. We are seeing steady increases in property tax. We have new developments coming online for housing in the next year or so. So we'll really see property tax growing there right now as what we're estimating. UUT, utility user tax, increases there, mainly driven by our increases in the price for electricity, gas, the water. So that's part of the collection there in the utility user tax. Going through these, I do want to note franchise fees is slightly lower in the upcoming or the projected years and the proposed year, simply because cable franchise fees are part of that revenue, and a lot of people are moving to streaming services, so we see decline in that revenue coming from the cable franchise fees. Cannabis, departmental revenues, we have the Measure H sales tax as well. So the Measure H sales tax, we're showing an increase in 24-25. The current year, we had about 8.1 million. We're bumping that up to 13.6. Part of that is a makeup of the 8.16 million in the current year is to close that shortfall in the general fund. We're increasing that by about 3.5 million. And then there's also a $2 million supplement for the ARPA funds that we lost. So we had ARPA funds of $2 million that were going to public safety in prior years. That funding has gone away. So we're putting that in as a supplement to that lost ARPA funding. Transfers in at the bottom, those are just transfers in coming from other funds for loans owed to the general fund. And those are the main things that make up the transfers in category. So total revenue, 199.8 million. Again, 5% increase, but a lot of that is being driven by property tax and some of the other areas. Sales tax is the one that is showing a steady decline currently. Looking at the general fund revenue history, one of the things I want to point out about this, so again, you can see here the red or pinkish section, I can't really tell the color, is showing what the revenues would be without that supplement from Measure H. So if we were not using any Measure H funds to cover that shortfall, those are what the revenues would be. And that blue or navy blue line or bar graph is including those Measure H supplemental revenues coming over. One of the things I want to note is that when we're really looking at sales tax, the big thing that's impacting the general fund that I mentioned before is that we were going on a projection with the economy the way it was just last fiscal year. We were doing the same meetings, and we were projecting an incline or an increase in the sales tax. So we were projecting around 41 million going up from where we had in the previous year. Now we're seeing steady declines. In the mid-year update, we decreased that sales tax revenue for the current year by about 4.4 million. And again, showing the declines going forward, going down to 35.9 million, where prior to that we were projecting at 41.9 million. So looking at those 2 years alone, the current year and our proposed year, that's about $10.5 million in revenue from sales tax that we're not seeing anymore, where we were projecting. So it's a pretty big decline in terms of the sales tax revenue based off those economic conditions, the current economic conditions. On the expense side of things, so again, we have the fiscal year 24-25 and then 25-26 draft proposed. The major increases you're going to see across the departments here are going to be driven by salary and benefit increases, PERS, our pension costs, and then our unfunded accrued liability. So you'll see that throughout the police, fire. There is a decline in the Parks and Recreation and Neighborhoods budget. That's being driven by some decreases that they made in their part-time. There was a lot of part-time labor that necessarily wasn't being used. So we decreased that budget for part-time heavily throughout Parks and Rec. But you'll see the increase in the draft projected year, knowing that like the Cesar Chavez Park will be coming online towards the end of next fiscal year, so they need to prep for that in the 26-27 year with all of their part-time and aquatics programs as well. Some of the other areas you can see going down, again, steady increases across city council, city manager's office, mainly again driven by the pension and salaries and benefits. In the city clerk's office, you'll see a decline in 25-26 and then an increase in the prior or the projected year because of the election costs. So that's what's driving the increase in 26-27 for city clerk's office. Going through to the bottom, you'll see our transfers out. So that's mainly to pay for debt, so debt service, and then that's on this building. And then there are a few subsidies in there as well. So we have the subsidy to golf, Center Plaza, and then the parking fund as well. At the very bottom, you'll see the variance rate. So we're calculating the variance rate, which is taking into account savings from salaries and benefits from vacant positions, and then not spending all the discretionary costs during the year. We're taking that savings up front in the budget to make sure that we can expend, or we have the full ability to provide the operating budget up front for all services needed. So we take those savings that we would project at the beginning of the year, so at the end of the year, we're not returning, $5, $6, $7, $8 million like we had done in the past. We implemented this a few years ago now. I think it was prior to COVID. On the proposed adjustments in 25-26, some of those we'll talk about later. It's movement of some operations from the police department into Measure H as they expand those services. And then there is a decrease in the city auditor's office as well. Before I move on from this side, I do want to talk a little bit about, actually we'll talk about it in a couple slides. So this is our expenditure history. Going forward, you can see the decrease from 24-25 to 25-26 in terms of total operating expenditures, and then the increase in 26-27 in terms of our draft projected. Again, mainly being driven by pension costs, salaries and benefits, and we'll show on the next slide why that number is higher than 213 million in the projected year. So this is showing kind of our general fund revenues and expenditures history and the variance between the two. Two things I want to point out here. So you'll see a 0 in the 25-26, so we are presenting a balanced budget. There was a shortfall that was projected when we started this process of about 25 million, but we closed that gap through a number of items. So we closed the gap using the variance rate, which is about $13.8 million. And then we added in the additional funding from Measure H that I talked about, the $3.5 million to the ongoing budget shortfall, and then the $2 million for the ARPA loss funding. We also have a return of reserves from the EBF fund. So in the Employee Benefits ISF fund, returning reserves back to all the contributing funds, which general fund is one of them. And that's really just because we're trying to maintain a certain level of reserves, and in EBF fund it was getting a little bit higher than what we were comfortable with, so we're returning those funds back to the contributing funding sources, and general fund being one. We have a 9% rate discount on workers' comp. So the workers' compensation ISF, that's about $450,000 in savings to the general fund. And then we have the reduction of the operating subsidy for the Center Plaza. So Center Plaza, we provide a subsidy to that. It's about a little under $1.3 million annually to subsidize the operations of Center Plaza. We're reducing that down to half in hopes that by the end of this fiscal year, we'll have decisions made on Center Plaza. So there's $676,000 in savings from that. The rest of the items we'll talk about in more detail as we go through, but it was the movement of some of those police department operations into the Measure H fund. And then, like I mentioned, we have some positions that we're eliminating in the Office of the City Auditor as they are not needed right now. The second thing I want to point out after that long spiel was in 26-27 in the draft projected, you'll see the variance is still there of about $6.8 million. So there's still a projected shortfall going forward in 26-27. Now, again, when we come back for adoption of the 26-27 year and bring that forward to the council committee and then back to council, committee, then council, we will have that budget or that shortfall closed. So we will come back with a balanced budget as we do every year. And we'll bring back what those recommendations are at that time. But we do want to show kind of what the real projection is going forward in 26-27. There are some non-Measure H proposed adjustments in this budget. So in the general fund, we have the increase to the Community Economic Development Department. This is for an economic development strategic plan implementation. This is for $50,000, so that'll be an increase to their budget. And then in the non-general fund, we have some positions that are included in there. So we have the conversion of a part-time construction inspector to a full-time. We have the addition of a senior solid waste enforcement officer position, and then the addition of a water resource analyst. On the non-general fund side and on the general fund adjustment, departments will go into more detail about what those are and what they're hoping to accomplish with those additions. Going into Measure H. So again, we know the history of Measure H and kind of where we are. A few key things to point out: revenue received to date for Measure H, that was through March, is $86.4 million. We have an estimated annual revenue of about $45.4 million in 25-26. The table on the bottom right is a spending plan. So for each year in 22-23, we called it the quick wins spending plan. Then we had the full annual spending plans after that. You can see how much in Measure H funding has been appropriated over that time. So there's been about $78 million that have been appropriated from Measure H funding. In this proposed draft, we're proposing an additional $13.6 million in ongoing and one-time Measure H funded programs, and then we'll see some more detail on that on the next slide. This slide here is showing the sales tax revenue forecast for Measure H. So again, you can see we had increases going forward, but then with the economic uncertainty, the inflation, things that are going on at the federal level, we have a decline in the 24-25 this fiscal year, and then we're projecting a decline next year with hoping to come out of that increases in the future years. The red line there is showing you how much of that is going to the general fund shortfall. So you can see the dollar amounts there and how much of that is of the total annual revenue over the next 5 years. Looking at the spending plan, we have the Measure H spending plan on the left. So we have approved spending on new programs, about $13.6 million. We have the prior year approved Measure H spending, which is about $25.7 million, and the general fund budget deficit funding, $11.6 million, and then that supplement for the lost ARPA funding of about $2 million. So there's an appropriation of about $53 million. Now you may be questioning, hey, Steve, that's higher than the $45 million you said we're getting in revenue. Part of that is coming from the reserves from Measure H. There's a healthy reserve balance that's been built up over the years. We're estimating, I think, at the end of this fiscal year, it's about over $30 million in reserves in Measure H. Going into this and making use of some of the one-time funds for that $10.9 million you see on the lower right-hand table, we'll reduce that reserve amount, but again, we'll still have over $20 million in reserves and Measure H funding. On that lower right table, you can see the one-time costs that we're proposing and then the ongoing amount of $2.7 million for that total. And then again, just a breakdown of the amounts going to the general fund for the total of $27.3 million. This is the full Measure H fund adjustment request. So this would be what would be part of the spending plan. Again, the departments will go through and provide more detail on these, but you can see we still have some money in the deferred maintenance and preventative maintenance. On that one, I do want to point out that we have 2 prior fiscal years of deferred and preventative maintenance projects that are funded. So they still have funding, and then this will be just a small additional amount while those other projects in the previous fiscal years are getting completed. So this is just an additional amount to supplement that. We have money going back, or money to fully fund the Chavez Park renovation project of about $761,000. We have the Dr. Martin Luther King Park renovation project funding about $7.8 million. We have money going back to the Palindale Street landscape project. That's $300,000. This was from an adjustment we took in the current year where we moved $300,000 from that project to Chavez Park. So this is to make the Palindale Street landscape project fully funded at that $2 million amount for the design phase of it. Again, the general fund balancing section there is we had some movements of those police programs and areas into the Measure H fund. And then there is a MPD staffing plan at the bottom. So Chief Gillespie will talk about this more in his presentation, but just as an overview, there's an elimination of 10 of the police officer recruit positions. We have 15 of them. As they get more staffing and they're getting more close to that fully staffed, there's less of a need to have all of the officer recruit positions. So they're reducing that down, adding 5 police officer positions, then the changing of police officers to sergeants and officers to lieutenant as well. And then the park ranger supervisor allocation at the bottom there. And I won't steal Chief's thunder. I'll let Chief talk about it. He's next, so he can talk about all the good things that they're doing with the staffing program. And now I'm going to turn it over to Casey Culbertson, our budget manager, and she will provide information about the other major funds.
Hello, good afternoon, or good evening. So in addition to the general fund and the Measure H fund, we do have a number of other major funds within the city. The first one being our water fund, next wastewater, solid waste. These are all ratepayer driven. I also want to touch on the surface transportation fund. So that's where our gas tax revenue comes in, our Senate Bill 1 revenue comes in, and those dollars are funding those operations. We also get a portion of the garbage franchise fees there. And in addition, our storm drain fund and our capital improvement support fund. The capital improvement support fund is actually funded by our indirect rate that's approved annually, and that approves the operations. Each of the departments will also go into their specific areas and their total operating budgets. And additionally, overall, we're proposing a budget of $626 million for all of the funds citywide. And again, each of the departments, they'll go through each of the individual funds. Within there, though, is going to be all of our operating budgets. I do want to notate, though, we also will be presenting in May on our capital improvement program budgets. So these operating budgets are not going to include all of the projects as far as for example, the water fund projects, the wastewater fund projects. These are all their operating budgets. And then going forward into our Finance Committee workshop schedule. So this week, today we're doing the overview presentation, then we'll move into our charter offices and department presentations. We also have a number of special presentations that we'll be doing. And then lastly, we will come back to you with any follow-up items and any recommendation, and then we'll go with the committee recommendations. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or Steve as well.
Okay, great. Does the committee have any questions of staff? Yes, Councilmember Bright.
Thank you. Steve, on the general budget, general fund budget, some of that increase is due to Measure H, allotment of adding police officers and things that we told the public that we were going to add. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, on the general fund side, part of it, I mean, we're trying to improve services. All of the Measure H stuff we keep separate. But yeah, I mean, the increases that we're seeing are due to programmatic changes.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we're having to move some of the Measure H over to the general fund, because of the upper staffing of areas that we told, tree or forest, whatever that is. Is that correct?
Correct. So yes, so we're moving stuff from general fund to Measure H to improve those programs. So whether it's traffic safety, the area command, the alternative response unit, it's to allow, like you'll see in this proposed budget, the additional 5 officers, which Chief will talk about, to get that traffic safety staffing up. So yes, we are making those improvements by moving those programs over into those areas.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Thank you, Chair Lady. I have a question on page 11. It says sales tax is reducing 2%, but then you have Measure H sales tax increasing 67%. Is that because we're getting 100% of the Measure H sales tax, or?
So part of the increase, I mean, we are showing a decline in, oh wait, you're talking about on this slide. So the Measure H increase here is because we're adding the $3.5 million to the budget shortfall amount. So it was 8.1 in the current year. We're adding $3.5 million to that number, and then we're adding the $2 million of supplement for the lost ARPA revenue that went to public safety. So really that $5.5 million increase on just the Measure H sales tax, I couldn't fit the whole thing. It's for the budget shortfall.
Okay. Thank you.
So will Measure H be sprinkled throughout every department's expenditures and not referenced as a department itself? It just, everyone will address their expenditures in,
Correct.
yes.
So when they go through their presentations, they'll have a section, if they have received Measure H funding, that talks about those adjustments they've received, the benefits of them, and then they'll show the funding as well through their presentation.
I see. Thank you. On page 13, the last row, variance rate. What happens to the funding on the variance rate if it's not fully utilized?
So at the end of the year, it basically, that's our target. If we have more savings than that, the savings will drop to the general fund unassigned reserves.
Okay.
And then be available as carryover at the end of the fiscal year.
I see. And where is that in these spreadsheets? Where is that noted?
It's not noted on
Oh.
the spreadsheets, but we do have a projection at the end of this year of about I think it was like 5.3 million in unassigned reserves.
Okay.
But remember, that's unassigned reserves. There's still the 18.4 million that council has set aside as emergency reserves, which we don't touch those.
And at any point in this process, will we be seeing what those reserves are projected to be?
Not in these presentations. I'm just verbally telling you now. From
Okay,
what
all
I
right.
have in my head. Yes.
Note to self. Okay. I have a couple more questions for you, so bear with me. On page 21, Measure H fiscal year 2025-26 spending plan overview, you reference under the first table approved spending on new programs at 13 million and change. What are these programs?
That should say proposed. You haven't approved anything yet. It should say proposed adjustments.
Okay,
proposed spending.
Proposed
Correct.
spending.
That's
Okay,
that's a mistake on my
correct,
part.
proposed. Okay. Nevertheless, where are the proposed new programs
if we go
listed?
to slide 22,
Okay.
that's the breakdown of the of that 13.6 million.
I see. Okay. Okay. That is that, and I believe I have one more question. Nope, that was it. Thank you. Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Thank you. Can you give the percentage and dollar amounts of our reserves? You mentioned the emergency reserve, that's what, 9%?
Let me calculate it real quick. The emergency reserve is yes, it's about 9.5%.
And what were the other reserves that we have?
There's an unassigned, we call it unassigned reserves, but it's basically your carryover at the end of the year. That is, and this will be a much smaller number because it varies, but it's 2.8%.
Thank you.
And there's the additional Measure H reserves, that is about 30-something%, 30 million at this
Yeah.
point in time. And then after all the proposed adjustments, it would be closer, just north of 20 million.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? No. Now an opportunity for the mayor. Councilmember Ricky, do you have any questions?
My only question is about deferred maintenance again. I know you mentioned that. Where was that again? Is there a special spot for that?
So we do have a special presentation on deferred maintenance that will provide all the details and where the deferred
All
maintenance
right.
is for the city.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's fine.
Okay. See no more further questions. Now we could open it up to the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak? Do we have any green cards? None? Okay. Please step forward and state your name if you wouldn't mind. Please ask all your questions, and then at the conclusion of your 3 minutes, if staff is able to respond to them, they will. If not, if we are unable to, that we'll so note it and get back by the end of the workshop.
I just have a question. I may missing something,
Okay?
but according to this paper, it's exactly 2 years since the city started to collect on Measure H. And I see here 86.4 million. And the city spent 78.06 million. I don't know if it's include the 8 million from last year that to cover the difference in the budget. But I just wonder, where is the $30 million that already Measure H recovered, that it's somewhere on the side for some bad days? This is your numbers, not mine. You know, what you collect, what you spend. And like I said, I don't know if it's include the 8 million from last year that you added to cover the deficit. So, and I heard this last year too about this, we have a lot of money on the side already from Measure H. Last year it only was a year since you guys start to collect the money, and now, 30 million, but nothing on this paper. And I remember that's exactly what I said last year. Measure H, before people pay attention, oh, we cover this, we cover that. Before we know it, we just cover all kind of things, but the money is supposed to go to the cause, not even bother to go to the cause. And I just wonder, you're talking about $30 million that it's a safety net, kind of, we already collect from Measure H, but I tell you what, it's not according to your paper. So I just wonder if somebody can talk about it, to mention it and say something.
Well, thank you for your question and your
Thank
comment.
you.
Would you mind stating your name for the record, please?
My name is Safrir Solomon.
Thank you,
from
Mr.
Modesto.
Solomon. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Is this something, Stephen, that you can address, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to open the spreadsheet, yes. It's a rather large spreadsheet. Sorry. But yeah, so when we're talking about the Measure H and that, I think it was, I remember what slide it was. You know what slide it was? 19 in the presentation. So we started collecting in April of 23. So since that time through March of this year, so March, we're not a full year yet, I'm giving you actuals of what we received to date on that 86.4 million. We still have, what, about 5 months of revenue to collect because sales tax is collected 2 months in arrears. So that March number is really only revenues receipted through January. So there's still about 5 months of revenue that need to come in on that number. So when we talk about that $30 million in reserves, that's what we're projecting based off of everything that's been collected, what we're projecting to collect at the end of the fiscal year, by the end of 24-25. And then what we've appropriated is that number of 78.06 million. So on the reserves, we built up some of those reserves because we might have appropriated 33.3 million in 23-24. Those aren't actuals expended. I'm just trying to show council what has been approved. We had savings, so not all positions were filled right away that year, so there could have been 6 months of savings until that position was filled. There were some projects that hadn't been spent in terms of their full budget. So there are allocations in those 33.3 million, the 40.28 million that have not been fully spent because we have savings, just like the general fund every year. There's savings, and that goes to the reserve balances. So of that 86.4 million, that's the spreadsheet I'm trying to open up here that's taking some time. We only have an estimated or a projected year-end cost that's going to leave us with about a little over $30 million in reserves.
And I'd also point out that that was also part of our strategy, is to spend one-time monies up front and not add ongoing expenses so that we could build future reserves against any economic downturns that may come to fruition. So carrying that fund balance was intentional and as part of our conservative strategy to make sure that we do not fully expend Measure H, which would be very easy to do, and then not be able to provide the increased services that we had promised our citizens.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any additional questions or comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, public comment is now closed. Bring it back to Finance Committee. Any comments from the Finance Committee?
I do have a comment. So, Steve, so we have not eliminated any services on Measure H that we told our public we were going to do. We've actually moved forward on services to not cut any services, correct?
Correct.
Like on our forest department, you know, we do have our own forest department, but I think we have 2 or 3 other contractors that we contracted with for the next several years in order to trim our trees, get rid of the dead trees and this type of thing. So those are, even though the money's in reserves, those monies have been sort of allocated for those particular areas, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so a lot of the reserve money is really for positions that we know that down the road we're going to use that money for Measure H, and we need to have it in reserves in order to use it.
Yeah, and for future one-time costs for maybe a large project coming in. I know we have some outstanding things with Station 1 for fire.
Parks, we have a lot of parks,
exactly.
the bathrooms that need to be replaced.
Right.
Can't redo them all at once. It
Right.
takes years to do it, so we have to have the money set aside in order to do those, correct?
Correct.
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wright. Any further comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, appreciate it. Moving forward to our next presentation on quality of life. Oh, yeah, so that would be the police department. Chief, welcome.
Good evening, Chair and committee members, City Manager, City Attorney, Brandon Gillespie, your Police Chief. So I want to be able to give a background of the Police Department, kind of give you an overview, and then we'll get into the proposed budget for this next fiscal year. So moving on, and you have the budget, I will point out a couple of things. There are just a few slight changes in the, I know you asked about that, but a few slight changes in the packet you have, and I'll point one graph out specifically once we get to that part. But here's, this chart shows a overview organizational chart of the police department, showing really in those little circles. I know hopefully the public can see it better on the TVs around here, and you can see it in your binders, but those little circles are the overview of the Measure H, where Measure H has been spent around the police department. One of the things that we're focusing on, and I continue to focus on, is our Area Command Division. This is something that we created a few years ago to really focus on, and address long-term solutions for problems in our neighborhoods and around our city. And so you can see our Area Command Division has quite a few of Measure H dollars going towards it, especially with our professional staff, or commonly known as our non-sworn staff, to address these issues. And we can talk about that and the impact that those have had as we move on in this presentation. But wanted to provide an overview here. It touches every different division within the department, the 4 different divisions, and we've seen a big impact from the Measure H dollars at Modesto. Staffing, really, when you look at the staffing, this goes back to fiscal year 08. And so you can here go ahead and see the blue line, which is the our sworn personnel. You'll look to the very right of the graph. The orange area is the sworn Measure H positions, and then the red line is the non-sworn positions that we have, and then the non-sworn Measure H positions. And then the line that goes throughout the graph, the dark line, is the population of the city of Modesto as you go throughout the years. So you can see back in fiscal year 08, 09, before the Great Recession hit, we had quite a few officers knocking on the door of 300, but then the financial situation throughout the city until Measure H, we definitely continued to cut to where we were at 211 sworn positions, which is where we currently sit today. One of the important things that I wanted to point out that, you know, even though that we haven't added any sworn positions to date, we have been able to fill sworn positions. So in net, we continue to see an increased service level from our department. You go to November of before, when Measure H was first passed, we had about 30 vacant police officer positions. There was about 22 vacant positions and 8 frozen positions, so about 30 vacant sworn positions. I'm proud to say that we're down to 7 vacant positions as it stands right now. So, and a lot of this becomes to a lot of the different strategies that we were able to impose and continue to recruit officers, turn the vacancies around and attract officers, new officers and lateral officers, and that would have not been possible without Measure H. This is a new graph that's not in your packet. I want to point that out, but we wanted to look at the allocations throughout the entire department. So these are the different divisions, and you can see the blue line is our sworn numbers, sworn officer positions, and then our civilian positions are in the red. If you look at overall, there's 211 sworn positions. 196 are currently in the general fund with 15 in Measure H, and we have 174 civilian positions with 114 in the general fund and 60 in Measure H. And this is broken down by division, so you can see our operations division, which I think my clicker was going fast. I think I actually missed a slide at the very beginning, but I'll talk about our different divisions now. But our operations division is really what we consider our patrol division. So all the uniformed police officers, the black and white patrol cars that you see driving around the city, our community service officers, those fall in our operations division, which is really the backbone of our department that handles those citizen-generated calls or make proactive traffic stops on a daily basis in our city. Our investigations division think of that as our detectives and our special units. So we have some of our special units, but our detectives, our property crimes unit, our homicide unit, our special victims unit, things like that, our gang unit, all fall within our investigations division. And then our newly created area command division, which is, again, just a few years old, really looks at our quality of life stuff. So our park rangers, our chat team, our traffic unit, different units like that, all code enforcement, all fall within our area command division. Our support division, it's a 24-hour operation, so we have our records division, which is a 24/7 operation, building maintenance, a lot of different things like that fall in our support division. And then we have the chief's office and some administration, a lot of administrative duties, myself, the assistant chief, and things like that are in our division. So when you look at department revenues and expenditures, I think it's important to point out that the Modesto Police Department is obviously not a revenue-generating department. And so when you look at the revenues and expenditures, you're going to see that we don't bring in a whole lot of revenue. The revenues that we do bring in are mainly from Prop 172, the state tax, so we bring about $1 million in from that. We also have our abandoned vehicle abatement, which brings in a few $100,000 a year. Our franchise tow agreement, which brings in a few $100,000 a year as well. And then we have grants that we get and outside work agreements, which are reimbursements, and come to about $1 million a year, as well as that. Other smaller revenues, we get reimbursement from our peace officer standards and training reimbursement, permit fees, fines, and citations, such as fireworks, animal control, code enforcement, extradition reimbursement, and legal settlements kind of make up the different revenues that we bring up. But the majority, you look at our general fund, majority of those expenditures are going to be our salaries and benefits for our staff. Measure H, you can see again there, the revenues and expenditures there, that's continued to increase as we've been able to add different professional staff positions over the last few years, or move positions that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford into the Measure H bucket. And then police grants as well. One of the things you can see is a big leap from 23-24 to 24-25, and that's when we received our organized retail theft grant of several $1 million. And so you'll see that big leap there. Our traffic safety fund are a couple other things, and traffic offender fund. It's important when we look at those, I'll kind of explain what those are, but our traffic safety fund is a revenue source. The revenue source for that is traffic safety fines and forfeits. This fund, as we like to think, but it can't fund people, but it can buy equipment and different things for the department. So we are able to purchase things, equipment and supplies for traffic enforcement and for traffic accident prevention. And it can also be used for traffic-related maintenance and expenses. So if you look at the 21-22 jump up from 21-22 to 22-23, that's really when we started really investing heavily in our camera program around the city, both the blue light cameras you see flashing, our license plate readers and things like that. And that's what we've been expending a lot of our traffic safety money, using that money for those type of strategies. Our traffic offender fund, that source is a portion of vehicle release fees from offenses such as DUI and other driving offenses, and the funds are often used for general police operations, and current funds one traffic officer and associated expenses like motorcycle that they ride and things like that. When you look at this is going to be broken down by division. So previously that was the overall for the entire department. Now we just want to kind of give you a breakdown of, this is our operations division, general fund revenues and expenditures. This is our operations division again, and the breakdown of the Measure H expenditures. Our investigations division, again, this is the general fund. You can see that throughout the last several years. And then you can see the Measure H expenditures in our investigations division as well. This is our support division, general fund. And the Measure H. And then our area command, the general fund, and this is Measure H. Our Area Command Division does receive grants. We have that one in here as well. There's like our ABC grant, our cannabis grant, our Office of Traffic Safety grants that we get every year. Those are a larger source of revenue that we get for our Area Command Division as well. This is the Area Command Division's Traffic Safety Fund revenues and expenditures. And I think what's important to point out there is the Traffic Safety Fund has a balance and has continued to have a balance of it. We receive about $200,000 a year, and even though we're expending higher than that, we're just drawing down an existing balance that is much higher than that. And then the Traffic Offender Fund. So the impact of Measure H on our department, when we look at the current fiscal year, that we were able to have some Measure H adds. Our real-time crime center was a focus of that. We were able to add 1 police civilian manager, 1 senior police technician, and 3 police technicians. We already had 1, so that brought us to 4 police technicians. But when you look at 2024 and the things that they were able to accomplish, they had over 529 assists for calls for service to our patrol division. They were able to take over 3,700 telephone reports over the phone. They handled over 10,000 online reports. They were able to track, when we look at our license plate reader, and be able to help our patrol division out, whether it's stolen cars or other things like that. 57 different tracking from the real-time crime center on different cars that we were looking for. Be able to assist in 8 missing persons, and even recovered by themselves and directed officers to people with weapons on 3 different occasions. And I would say that even though we've had these positions, we continue to fill them. I think we currently have 2 of our police technicians positions filled, and again, not fully staffed with these positions yet, and already making that type of impact for our city. Also, our Area Command and Investigations Division was a focus of increasing our positions. We had 5 code enforcement officers that were added via Measure H. 4 park rangers. We had the pilot program, if you recall, a few years ago. That funding had run out, and so we had to continue that funding. We needed Measure H dollars to keep the 4 park ranger positions. And then we added 2 civilian investigators. As we talk about all of these positions and the difficulty it's been hiring police officers just in general across the nation over the last several years, and it's getting much better, one of the philosophies I continue to have is how do we make sure that we hire police officers, which are expensive, that we have them doing things that we want police officers to do. And if it doesn't need to be handled by a police officer, then we have some other type of person do it. And our civilian investigators are one of those strategies that we've been using. We have 1 in our property crimes unit. We have 1 for our missing persons. We have 1 in our special victims unit and our traffic unit as well. And they have been really effective in doing the job of investigating what they can at a civilian level, allowing our police officers to stay on the street or go do the things that we need them to do. So our priorities and goals for fiscal years 25, 26, and 26, 27. And again, these are just highlights of them. I could probably talk to you about them for the next 2 hours, but I want to kind of give you just a snapshot of the 3 main buckets. But reduce crime and the fear of crime, improving driving behavior and related fatal DUI and injury collisions is one of my top priorities. We do a lot of things well in the city, and we drive down crime every year. We're dropping like a rock in a good way with auto theft. But when we look at fatal traffic accidents, injury collisions, DUIs, we are not doing very well, and we're on the wrong side of the spectrum. So it's one of our biggest focuses is to continue to develop strategies through enforcement education and engineering to have a really holistic approach at driving these down and keeping our roadways safe. We handled 21 fatal traffic accidents in the city of Modesto last year, and we had 7 homicides. So we had triple the amount of fatal accidents with people being killed as we did homicides, and that's just unacceptable. And so we continue to strategize, and one of my top priorities is making sure that we increase our traffic unit, that we continue to change driving behavior through enforcement, but also want to use education and work with our city partners when we look at engineering roadways, bless you,
Thank you.
To continue to keep our city safe. Reinstituting the area command policing model citywide. This has been a huge support, I know, from our city manager and you, the city council, to really support bringing back a area command model of policing where we can address quality of life issues in a much more timely manner, but also make sure that we're understanding what those long-term solutions are, not just putting a Band-Aid on something, but really developing long-term solutions. And from a patrol standpoint, it's very difficult to do when you're going call to call to call every day. And so creating this area command model where we have different crime reduction teams for different areas of the city, or chat teams or traffic units, to where we understand what's going on in each area of the city, because they're all very different, and making sure that we understand what the problems are and we're developing long-term solutions has been something that we continue to look at, continue to expand. Bringing code enforcement over to the police department was a good move in the right direction. And as you'll see, some of the enhancements that we're proposing will continue to move us in that direction. Increasing community engagement. We continue to want to be out in the community, continue to get feedback, continue to build the relationships so we're understanding and we're focusing on what the priority of our community is. We're going to do that by continuing to have community forums out throughout the city. We're going to focus on our youth and making sure that we're diverting our youth from a path of being involved in the criminal justice system and developing relationships there. Wake Up Session. Wake Up is a great program that we've re-implemented since COVID. We're doing a Summer Youth Academy. This last Friday, we just had a Clergy Council Youth Summit with 100 Modesto City Schools high schoolers. We're going to continue to work on those opportunities to build relationships and keep kids on the right path. Promoting organizational excellence, we're going to continue to focus on training and development. Competent, confident officers is the way that we reduce liability. We have our officers feeling confident to go out and do their jobs, and that comes through training and development of our staff, and we're going to continue to make that a top priority. Wellness initiatives. We've implemented several wellness initiatives over the last few years, and I'll tell you, the feedback we've gotten from our staff has just been overwhelmingly positive, and we'll continue to do that. And then just continuing to focus on recruitment and retention. We're in a really good spot right now. We're getting more applications from lateral police officers than I've ever seen in my career, and we continue to have police officer recruit applicants all the time. And so, like I mentioned before, we're down to 7 vacancies. There's the next academies are coming up at the end of July, and then September or October. And I expect that we're, with the people that will put in those academies and laterals that are still applying, my goal is to hopefully be fully staffed by the fall. Measure H adjustments that we're proposing. Steve already talked about some of these, but moving some of our different costs over from the general fund to Measure H, and Steve talked about those earlier. The other enhancements that we talked about that I'm just going to let Steve come up here and talk about moving those. No, I'm just kidding. Eliminating the 10 police officer recruit positions is something that we asked about a while ago, and the city council approved a few years ago, was having 15 police officer recruit positions. And the idea behind that was we were attritioning out anywhere between 20 and 30 police officers a year through either voluntary separations, retirements, and things like that. And we needed those positions to continue to, once hopefully we're going to get full, to continue to overfill, because it takes 12 to 18 months between hiring somebody, put them through the academy, the field training program, and getting them out on the street to where they're actually replacing the person that left. And so the council graciously agreed and has been funding that, but we're in a different spot now. We have where we're almost full. When we look in the future, there's always people that are on the cusp of retiring, but our officers voluntarily leaving laterally into other officers has darn near come to a halt. And so we're looking at a few retirements per year and looking at where we can best spend the city's money and continue to be fiscally responsible. I propose that we eliminate 10 of those police officer recruit positions, keep 5, which will allow us to continue to keep people in the pipeline for those retirements or those separations, so that we can keep people, keep that 18-month gap much shorter. But we also want to add 5 police officer positions. So 211, that will be a first in a long time. We've been at 211 for a long time, but we'll get us to 216. And then there were some cleanup positions. In the last fiscal year, We've been able to overfill a couple police officer recruit positions to add some with our growing staff, especially on the non-sworn side, the professional staff side. We've needed a senior administrative assistant, so that's a cleanup position that we're going to proposing to take care of in the budget. And then I would like to convert 2 existing police officer positions to sergeant allocations. So one of those was an overfill position that's more of a cleanup position, but the other one is important because adding that position is going to allow me to create a second traffic unit. So we're really close to adding a 7th officer into our traffic unit, and then I think by fall, we'll actually be able to add an 8th officer into our traffic unit. Remember, a few years ago, we were at 4, so basically doubling our traffic unit, but allowing me to have another sergeant allows me to create another traffic unit, which then splits our traffic unit into 2, which then allows for 7-day-a-week coverage. And that's critically important when we're talking about the strategy to change driving behavior and making sure that we're having consistent enforcement throughout the entire week, because right now we do not have our traffic unit does not work 7 days a week. Converting 1 police officer position to a police lieutenant. The important part there is back talking about our area command division. Ideally, where we want to get to is having 4 area commanders at our rank of lieutenant, and those lieutenants are really the conduit with the community that are responsible for understanding what's going on in each of the 4 area commands of the city, and getting to understand and communicate and build relationships with the stakeholders and develop those long-term solutions. We currently have 2 lieutenants who split the city. They each have 2 area commands, so they're dealing with a lot of constituents, a lot of problems, and ideally we need to get to 4. But we think feasible in this first of 2 fiscal years to convert 1 police officer position to a lieutenant, which would give us 3 lieutenants, continues to get us to where we need to go. I want to point out at this point is that we have a lot of officers, even with the 211, in the field training program and in the hiring process. So we hope actually by the end of this current calendar year to be in a big different, very positive direction where we can actually create another crime reduction team. So that starts giving more resources to these area commanders to go out and solve problems. So it's important that we continue with that area commander lieutenant position, keep moving forward in those. And then 2 other things is the converting a park ranger position, which we have 12 allocations, and they're all currently full, to a supervisor position. So they're doing a fantastic job. But we have some of our supervisors that are pulling double duty and supervising different units. And we believe it's time that we actually make a park ranger supervisor position to deal with scheduling, to deal with priorities, and take on that role. And we also think when we talk about succession planning and keeping people interested and they see a path beyond just being a park ranger, this is a benefit to where we keep this program very strong. And then finally, a proposal to purchase a new armored emergency response and rescue vehicle. Our current armored car that we use for tactical missions from our SWAT team, when we use our patrol division uses for any type of high-risk incidents that they come out to, is over 20 years old. And when we look at examples, I was just talking to the Safety and Communities Committee earlier today, but we have a turret that, somebody that comes out the top, the only thing they have protected is one little piece of metal in the front, and current models almost universally now come with 360-degree protection for the officer. Equipment, the way you store it right now, there's just not a lot of room for equipment, so there's some of the equipment that's on top of the vehicle strapped down. The air conditioning system's over 20 years old, so you can only imagine how often we're having to fix that and do things like that. So we do believe it's well over time to purchase a new armored response vehicle to both keep our officers safe and our community safe and be able to respond to dangerous incidents in an appropriate manner. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much for that presentation, Chief. Any questions from the committee? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Does your budget address the overtime pay? Or is it included?
It does include overtime, yes.
It does include overtime?
Yes.
Thank you.
That was it? That was simple.
Yeah,
Councilman Bright.
thank you, Chief, for your, talking about the cameras. What has been the big impact on the cameras through your department, and what type of crime has those really helped? And then also, what has been the savings for not having extra police officers because of the cameras?
I can tell you from my opinion that with the difficulty, again, not just our department, this is state and national issue of hiring and retaining officers, the ability that we've had to add cameras and license plate readers throughout the camera has been nothing short of a force multiplier for our city. I mean, we're having pretty much electronic officers out there 24/7 that has been able to capture, and if we're not capturing it live, we're able to go back and review and solve crimes through that technology. And we've been able to constantly throughout, from our real-time crime center, identify and apprehend stolen vehicles, which would have not been caught without those. We've been able to find suspects that have been involved in violent crimes. We've been able to find suspects who are dealing drugs at parks, and again, would have not have been caught, and then we're able to direct officers in to arrest people. So it has been a technological advancement of being a force multiplier when we're short officers and are really trying hard to fill those positions. We respond faster to calls. Again, the way I like to explain it is, if I have a robbery occur at a bank, that's a high priority call, and we're going to pull officers off calls. We're going to send a lot of resources, but they still have to drive lights and siren even across town, which often takes minutes. If a camera's in the area, it's there on scene within seconds. And when you have somebody fleeing a store, whether it's organized retail theft, whether you have a bank robbery, whether you have some type of violent crime, when I can get on scene in seconds, the likelihood of apprehending that person goes dramatically up. And so we've seen that time and time again. I don't have a cost to tell you what the ROI is as far as dollars and cents, but I can tell you just from my experience and the feedback and data that it's been a tremendous help for our department.
Prior to the cameras, we were like number one, number two in stolen cars in the state.
You go back to 2000, 2001, we were always in the top 10, most often in the top 5, and many times number 1 in the nation.
And where we are as of current?
As of 2022, which was the last reported statistics by the NCIB, we were 54th in the nation. Wow. And I'm told that they still are, because I kind of wondered if they stopped producing data. We just talked to the San Jose County Auto Theft Task Force the other day. They said they're close to coming out with 2023 numbers, and I guarantee you we're going to be a lot lower than that in the right direction.
Great, thank you.
That's wonderful. In regards to those cameras, are the images captured from those cameras usable at time of prosecution for evidence?
Absolutely, and often very critical for prosecuting individuals.
Wonderful. In regards to your MPD priorities, fantastic. Reduce crime and fear of crime, increase community engagement, promote organizational excellence. In that vein, you talked about wake-up sessions. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So what we do is we have kids that get in trouble for very low-level crimes, but you can see they're starting to go down a path of not making very good decisions. We can either have parents sign their kids up for the wake-up if they're seeing that, or we can also contact parents when we identify that. A parent has to agree to come with or a relative has to agree to come with the child to the sessions. And the whole goal is to have speakers. Often there's people from the department and different units, or gang unit talking about gang involvement. We have community members. They visit a prison and talk to inmates. And the whole goal is to try to have them understand that the choices they make have a real impact on what their future is, and to try to really convince them more into getting into positive behavior, to making responsible choices, understanding the impacts of their choices, so that they don't continue down the path that they're going.
Wonderful. What's that age group?
That age group, I'll get back to you on the minimum. I think the minimum age is probably in the 12-ish. 12? Looking at Captain Adams over here. 12 to 17.
Okay, interesting. Great. In regards to your recruitment efforts, every time I've been to one of your promotion or hiring ceremonies, I've just been so impressed at the level of experience that the new officers and personnel, they come with immense experience. They come with 2 master's degrees, but BA, a BS. It's just very, very impressive. What efforts do you have in focusing on hiring female sworn officers?
So really one of the things we look at when we look at gender and demographics is we want to reflect our city. And so we continue to look at different options, especially when we look at female officers, on how we can attract and retain female officers, how we can encourage the female officers we have to promote into different either special units or things like that, because it goes to whether it's gender or whether it's race. People want to see people that look like them in the different positions and things like that. So we continue to send women, some of our employees, to there's female conferences on how to recruit females and focus on women. We had a recruitment, right, Jessica? Did we have a recruitment for females? Open house? There we go. We're going to do one this summer. So I know that those are discussions that we continue to have about focusing on females and bringing them in. If we identify females that what we do from our physical agility, because that's often a barrier sometimes, that females can't jump the 6-foot wall, that they can't do the push-ups or the sit-ups. We actually do practice days, and when we identify females that come out, we'll work with them to make sure that we can get them past those barriers. So, and then we continue to look, when we look from a wellness point of view, we continue to look at different strategies, with people that have children or have to daycare and things like that. We're continuing to research different options. And then I'm going to throw in there, I know you didn't ask the question, but one of the things that we just did a presentation on recently is demographics. We look back a few years ago, we were at about 22% Hispanic sworn officers in our city, and we're currently at 31%. So we've increased 9%, and we know that we still have some work to do, but that's a big increase when we're looking at well over 40% of our population being Hispanic.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any further questions from the committee? Hearing none. Any questions from the mayor or Chris, Ricky? Chris, please go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Chair. Chief, a couple questions here. On the chat team, can you tell me what percentage of homeless calls are unhoused calls are being responded to by the chat team?
Yeah, I want to say the last data I looked at, and I can confirm, I think we have about 4% of our overall calls or so, 3 or 4%, that are being handled by our chat team. Majority of those being some type of dealing with somebody who's unsheltered or homeless or that in that realm.
Sure. And how many of those calls are we diverting from patrol?
Majority of those calls that they get dispatched to, majority of those are often not requiring a patrol response. And so our goal is, but we've had occasions where they get there, they realize it's something they can't handle, and then they call a police officer over. But I would say a vast majority of those are being diverted just to chat, and that's our goal.
Do you feel like chat is having an impact on patrol in a positive way in terms of reducing patrol responsibility to deal with unsheltered?
100%.
Okay. And do you feel like we have a large enough chat contingent to effectively reduce the problem? I think
right now I can't say in the future what I may ask for, but I can tell you right now I do believe that 12 is adequate. We just hired our final one to fill our staffing recently. And I'll tell you the conundrum that we're in right now is because of the chat team we have, 7-day-a-week coverage. It's not 24 hours a day, but it's 7-day-a-week coverage. People that want help, we have the opportunity and we have the people with the knowledge and the connections to provide those. What we continue to struggle with is those that don't want help. And when people don't want help and aren't willing to accept the help with the limitations that our chat team has, they can't do enforcement, right? They can't do that. Then it becomes more of an enforcement issue. And so we continue to bounce around with our chat team providing services, but then sometimes it still becomes an enforcement issue because we're dealing with the same people over and over who just are refusing to accept any type of services.
So you perceive chat kind of operating along the same lines this year, except at full strength, and it's going in the right direction?
Absolutely. They're going to handle more calls than they did last year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see. In terms of rangers, how is the ranger coverage? I know when we had this conversation last year, we just didn't have enough people.
Yep.
Talk to me about where we're at right now.
So we just recently, I think, we're full. And I say that with a caveat because we have one that is probably going to be hired as an animal control officer. So she's going to go from a park ranger to animal control officer. But the biggest challenge we've had, and it's a good problem to have, is people get in as a park ranger and then they decide they want to become a community service officer or a police officer or animal control officer. So we've continued to refine the job description. We've continued to refine the position, and that's one of the reasons I'm asking for the supervisor position to help put that responsibility there. Is I want our park ranger position to be looked at as a career position, not just a stepping stone. I don't mind the stepping stone, but I want people who want to do that as a career because it's different, right? It's different than a police officer. It's different than animal control officer. So we still have, even though we have all the positions full, we still have a lot of people in training though. So they're not all out there, 12 out there, work in different areas of the city. They're still in their own field training program. And so I do believe this calendar year we will see majority of those be out on their own and really having 12 spread out to be able to focus on the problems, to be a visible presence, to deter unwanted behavior in our parks and open spaces. I think we're going to be in a really good position, especially with a supervisor to help direct and focus and train those park rangers.
How do we define success with the ranger program?
I think a few ways. Number one, I think through statistics, right? If we're going out there and we're not finding people in violation of our municipal codes and camping or dogs off leashes or whatever it may be, we find that we're not seeing those violations. I think that's one measure of success. I think the feedback that we get from our community groups that live in the area, right? You got CANA, you've got the Loma Neighborhood Association, you got all these places that are ones constantly using these open spaces. We need to understand how they feel. Statistics tell us one story, but if people don't feel safe, it doesn't matter how much crime's reduced. So getting the continual feedback from our neighborhood associations and those living around the parks or using the park, which is often a hard metric to get, but you know and I know the people that continually contact us, right? They're going to let us know.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that that's another big metric that we've got to use. And then are we helping people, right? I mean, we look with our chat team, how many referrals do we have? Because a lot of our parks, when we look at it's drug-related use, it's some fights at night, it's and then camping is a big issue that we continually see. So, understanding that those go down, but the feedback is going to be important.
I don't want to put you on the spot with actual statistics right now because you probably wouldn't have that memorized, but do you have any anecdotal feedback from any of the neighborhood groups in terms of the effectiveness of rangers?
Yeah, I think the anecdotal I can give you is when the park rangers are there, problems are much less.
Right.
And the struggle we have is that right now with the staffing levels, because of all the the vacancies we had previously and now the training people we have in training, is having that consistent presence.
Right.
And so the feedback I continue to get is when the park rangers are there, people are happy. The neighborhood associations love them. They do a good job, but they're not there enough, and the visible presence there isn't enough.
Gotcha. And I think that we could probably assume that we're going to see an improvement with the additional training over the next year.
Absolutely. And we're continuing to evaluate, especially with our city attorney's office and with ourselves, where's that balance between what we want our park rangers to do? Because I'll tell you, one of the things our park rangers, they're allowed to issue citations, but if they have somebody that is the fifth time they've contacted this person, my view, giving them a sixth citation is not going to, we're wasting everybody's time at that point.
Right.
But they're not allowed to actually physically arrest anybody and take people to jail. So we're continuing to try to research and take a look at different responsibilities the park rangers have. I do like that they look completely different from police officers. So when you first are approached by one, I think it's not that, intimidating effect because they look like a typical park ranger you'd see in a state park or any of those type of things. And so, but I do want to give them the appropriate authority to make sure that they're being able to solve problems and not having to then call a police officer over to deal with that issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, final question. On traffic,
Yes,
last year we brought in a DUI officer,
yes,
and I think this year, did we bring in a second one?
we did,
Yeah.
just recently.
So can you share with us the impact of the DUI officers that we brought in and give me a forecast of how we feel we're going to do in 2025?
Yeah, we now have 7-day a week. This is just recently, within the last month or two, 7-day a week coverage with DUI officers, and that's a big deal. I'll tell you, when I read our watch reports every day, there's 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 DUIs in any given night, and that's just completely unacceptable. And each one of those DUIs, in my mind, is potential of a fatality, potential of a life changed. And some of those, when I see those on our watch report, they're DUI because they were involved in a crash. And then we showed up and they were found to be under the influence. And so having 7-day week coverage is going to be extremely important. We also, that's part of what our Office of Traffic Safety grant allows us to do, hire officers back on overtime that are DUI trained to be able to have more saturation patrol. But it's going to be a big deal, and I think you'll continue to see DUI arrests go up. You'll see our campaigns for DUI and choose your ride. We just got a trailer from the Office of Traffic Safety that talks about choosing your ride. You know, it's choose an Uber or a taxi. You know, choose the back of a police car or choose an ambulance. Which one do you want to choose? And so we're going to continue to educate the public, because the last thing I want to do is arrest people for DUI. But if that, between that and having somebody's life change, I'll arrest them for DUI every day of the week.
Understood. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Mayor?
Couple of further questions about traffic enforcement.
Yes.
So you mentioned 7 days a week. Is it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
No, what we're looking at right now, so right now our traffic unit works a 4-on, 4-off schedule. I take that back. Our traffic unit does not. They work a 4-10 schedule weekdays. But what they're going to move to is a 4-day, 4-on, 4-off schedule like our patrol officers. So it will be 7 days a week. So it's basically business hours right now that our traffic unit works, because there's a lot of traffic during the day. But when you look at our vehicle collisions, especially on Friday and Saturdays, you start to see more in the evening hours. Mm-hmm. And so when we split our traffic unit into 2 units, we're going to start adjusting some hours and have some work later in the evening and try to cover the day shift, but it's not 24 hours a day.
All right, so eventually we currently have 7? No, how many did you
We currently
say?
have 6. We're going to be
6.
moving to 7 probably in the next few weeks. And then by the fall, and this is all based on people getting out of our field training program, we hope to be at 8 by August.
Okay, 8, and what kind of, at any given moment, how many officers would be doing that
So
job?
each squad, once we have 8, each squad will have 4 traffic officers and 1 sergeant. And that's where we're going to start. As we continue to get more and more off, I need to get our patrol division up to a minimum of 92 so that we can adequately handle the calls that we have. We're currently at 88, I believe. So as more people get off FTO, we're gonna still put more into our patrol division, but we're also going to split our traffic unit. We need to add another officer here soon to our gang unit, and then we will come back and as more people get out, we'll add those into our traffic unit. So these 5 additional officers that we're proposing will ultimately continue to help us fill those positions, but add to our traffic officers. I'll tell you, really in the next few years, I want to be at 16 traffic officers throughout the city. And I think an important thing to point out, I don't want the public to be mistaken that with only these 4 traffic officers, if they're not working, that no traffic enforcement goes on. Any sworn officer, our patrol officers do write tickets for different traffic violations. We hire officers with that Officer of Traffic Safety grant to do enforcement. So we do have other avenues. It's not just a one strategy with the traffic unit, but our traffic unit is a big part of that.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to visualize. At any given time, how many officers are?
Out on the street?
Yes.
In general?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So in the mornings, you'll probably see about 10 officers in the city. And then throughout the middle of the day, you can see anywhere probably between 15 and a maximum of 20.
Okay. And this is 24/7?
This is 24/7. So it varies. In 2 o'clock in the morning, you're probably going to have 10 officers total. At 6 in the morning, you're going to have about the same. As in the middle of the day, as more people are at work and all that,
Okay.
we're going to have 15 to 20 patrol officers, but then you're going to have our DUI officers, you're going to have our detectives and all that. So you're going to have, sworn officers working on any given day from the chief on down. You're going to have 50, 60
Okay.
people.
All right, so what I'm trying to visualize
Yeah.
is like traffic officer, I mean, if any officer sees someone and they appear to be driving under the influence.
Yes.
They take care of it.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
So the DUI officer, what is unique about them and about traffic enforcement officers when everyone's trained to do that?
Great
Okay.
question, great question.
Okay.
So those officers assigned to any special assignment in traffic, let's take traffic specifically, they don't go unless it's a high priority, everybody's got to go. They're not going to citizen-generated calls like our patrol officers are every single day. So their sole focus is to be out on the road to looking for traffic violations, looking for DUI drivers, looking for speeding, right? Right-of-way
Okay,
violations.
so they're not answering all these
That's
other
all they're
calls
doing.
particular- Okay, got it.
That's all they're doing.
All right.
But what our patrol officers, while they can write tickets, and I get this complaint from people all the time, is I just was driving down the street, I saw this patrol car, and I saw somebody roll a stop sign, and they didn't do anything. Well, our patrol officers are often going to domestic violence calls and things like that, and they need to get to that call. So there may be times where, there may be a traffic violation, but they have a higher priority call that they need to get to. So they can't focus on that, if that makes sense.
Got it. It's all prioritized.
Yes.
According to immediate need.
Yep.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Mayor. Councilmember Wright.
Thank you, Chair. Back to your chat team. So when chat team approaches an individual that's homeless, and they yes, we want services, I need help, are we able to get them right into shelter or get them right into lodging that night?
Oftentimes, not necessarily every single time. Depends on the shelter capacity, depends on availability. But I'll tell you, our chat team is darn amazing, and they have connections all over the city for different shelter and housing, vouchers, things like that. And from my experience and talking to them and seeing what they do, oftentimes they absolutely will find somebody, at least a temporary place, why they get assessed or why they get whatever they need to get into the shelter. But there are times where if they're not immediately in jeopardy, they may have to wait a day or two for them to meet with them to get them in. But oftentimes they can work pretty good miracles.
We don't have no percentages on who can get sheltered and who can't.
I don't on me. I can see if I can find that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Seeing no further questions from the committee or the council, I'll open it up to the public. I do not have any green cards. Does anyone wish to speak on the subject? Don't all run up here at once. Okay. Seeing no one from the public wanting to speak on this agenda item, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the Finance Committee for final comment. Seeing none. Council, any final comment?
I'll just make one comment. One impression that I had was the importance of connecting all of these services, and I know that we do with the school districts. When you think of it, with Modesto City Schools alone, we have 15,000 high school students that are all either 1, 2, or 3, or 4 years away from being adults, turning 18. I'm thinking of the huge opportunity there and impact that we can have with those students that will then hopefully address some of these root cause issues, which I know we do every 15-minute programs are happening all over the city right now, and I think it's great. But that came to me. It's kind of an obvious source, but of listeners that I think would really appreciate the attention, and especially with command officers is what got me thinking about that. If they can really identify with that person in their neighborhood, that's my officer, that's the person I call for help, or that can help me address issues in my neighborhood and make that connection, I think that will be really remarkable. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Mayor. Thank you for that presentation. It was very informative. I'm going to take a pulse right now from the body here. We are at exactly an hour and a half into it. We're midway through Does everyone want to take a 5-minute stretch break or forge on through?
I take a break.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break and we'll resume.
Where do
Thank
get
you.
coffee?
It's done. Okay. All righty. Thank you, everyone, for that break and your patience. We'll resume with Fire Department presentation. Welcome, Chief. Please.
Good evening,
Floor is
committee.
yours.
I'm Kevin Wise, your fire chief for the Modesto Fire Department, and I'll be presenting information about our department, our proposed budget for the fiscal year 25-26, and our projected budget for fiscal year 26-27. I'm going to provide you with a department overview. We really have three main divisions, but we also have some other divisions that spur off our division. So starting with our Emergency Operations Division, this is, again, really where the rubber meets the road, and we provide service to our citizens directly. They provide emergency services to our community, fire, emergency medical, technical rescue, hazmat, and water rescue. First responders to emergencies, non-emergency, and for calls for service. And if 911 dispatchers don't know who to call, they generally call us and we'll figure it out. With the Emergency Operations Division, it is directly supported, and it's not up there, is by our EMS division and our training division directly support that division. So obviously, as you know, most of our calls are related to emergency medical aids, so it's very vital that we have the EMS division to support the emergency operations and the training division to support our personnel and provide the training needed to provide that high level of service. The next division in our overview of the department is Community Risk Reduction. In the past, that has been known as the Fire Prevention Division. It provides fire code enforcement, plans check, and administers the state fire code, which we will be updating this year. We do that every 3 years. It conducts fire inspections, construction inspections, state mandated inspections, provides public education and prevention training. And the final division is our business operations. This is to support all our other divisions in what we do. They provide logistical, technical, and administrative support to our divisions, oversees personnel matters, including hiring, promotions, worker comp, etc. They play a vital role in assuring that the fire department continues to operate effectively 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. As you know, we are a regional fire department, and we do this through our contracts for service. We currently have 7 contracts for service. They vary in what we provide, full service contracts, administrative contracts. So we have the City of Oakdale, which is a full service contract through year 2027. Oakdale Fire Protection District, which again goes through 2027. City of Ceres is a full service contract, and it will be coming up in 2026. Stanislaus Consolidated is an administrative contract, and it will be coming up in 2027. City of Turlock is another administrative contract where we provide administrative oversight to the department, and that comes up in 2027. Salida Fire Protection District is a full service contract that's up in 2027. And our partnership with Modesto Junior College, it's good through June of 2028, and is very similar to our administrative contracts. So besides this council that I report to, I also in some way, shape, or fashion report to 35 other board or council members through these agreements. Next is our organizational chart for our fire department staffing. Our department is composed of 234 employees representing 4 different labor groups. Of these positions, 9 are paid through Measure H. Let's see if I can read these. It's really small. But we have our financial analyst in fire prevention. We have our public safety business analyst. We have our hazmat inspector. We have our AOA 3 in EMS. We have 3 Medic 1 captains. And then we have our quality assurance person that oversees our quality assurance in our EMS division. Next up is our fire department staffing and our staffing history going back to 2021. You can see the different shades of color. The blue equals the sworn. Now, these sworn are within the city of Modesto proper, and that's the blue color. And then you have Oakdale, which is there in green. That's our Oakdale contracts. That's both Oakdale City and Oakdale Rural. Series sworn, they're in, it's a little bit of a reddish color. And then Salida sworn, and then we have 9 grant-funded firefighters through our SAFER grant. And then we have our non-sworn personnel, which is our fire inspectors and our administrative staff. As you can see throughout the years, the one I want to point out is the City of Modesto there in the light blue at 127 sworn firefighters, 133 in 2022, 23. And you can see where we've been the last 4 years with 137 firefighters. I just want to point out in 2005, we had 174 sworn firefighters in the City of Modesto, and that was pre-recession. Here's a breakout of the fire department staffing. It's pretty much what I just went over with you, just put into a pie chart. But you can see all the different divisions and how they make up the part of the fire department in that pie graph. And they include administration, suppression, again, our contracts for service, our SAFER grant, our training, prevention, investigations, and facilities and fleet. Next, I'm going to go over the department revenue and expenditures. Again, this is our fire department revenue and expenditures dating back to fiscal year 21-22, and then bring it up to 23-24, where we have actuals, and then our current budget, and then our proposed budget, and our projected budget. As you look at the graph here, you can see both revenues and expenditures. The majority of our department expenditures is comprised of appropriations in what we call Unit A appropriations, and that's for our personnel costs, which obviously is our highest cost. Our fire suppression personnel, as you know, last year recently negotiated a new contract, so it's had some impacts to that A appropriations with pay, specialty pay, salaries, and benefits. Based on this contract, effective this July 1st, this will include a 6% raise, and in the second part of this budget cycle in 26, there will be a 5% increase in those salaries, so that impacts our expenditures. One of the major differences when comparing the fiscal year 23-24 to our current budget is, as Joe mentioned, some of those one-time purchases that we were focused on with Measure H. So we're very fortunate. We were able to purchase a Type 3 apparatus. That's for our wildland firefighting. And then we ordered 5 engines and 2 trucks. So that's why you see in fiscal year 24-25, you see that big increase when you look at the top line of the bar graph. So it caused our expenditures to increase significantly, but if you look, they returned to normal in fiscal year 25-26, and 25-26, our expenditures are expected to go down 6%, so that's good. Revenues are expected to increase by 4% in fiscal year 25-26 as compared to fiscal year 24-25. What you're looking at now is our operations divisions, revenues, and expenditures. They're fire suppression, essentially City of Modesto proper, with the series contract, the Oakdale contract, the Salida contract, our special operations, and investigations. Like everyone else, the fire department has faced increasing costs related to our PPE, which we call personal protective equipment, our supplies, fuel, and labor. This chart gives a glimpse of the department's growth with the contracts as their associated revenues and expenses. The Modesto Fire Department's Operations Division is committed to protecting lives and property while continuously improving service delivery. Special Operations is comprised of technical rescue, water rescue, and hazardous materials teams. The technical rescue team's goal is to have all assigned personnel certified in confined space, low-angle rescue, rescue systems 1, and trench rescue. The water rescue team is responsible for protecting more than 60 miles of waterways, including the Stanislaus River, the Tuolumne River, and the Dry Creek, and numerous irrigation canals. The hazardous materials team are certified to respond to hazardous material responses and decontamination level. This slide also depicts the revenues and expenditures for our Ceres, Oakdale, and Salida contracts for service. The fire investigation unit, which we have 3 fire investigators, is part of a multidiscipline unit, which is made up of law enforcement personnel and personnel from the district attorney's office. Up next, we're looking at our business operations divisions, revenue and expenditures. When you look at this chart, obviously you look at the fiscal year 21-22, and there's a big difference in the revenues and expenditures. And this was due to the department or the city entering into a lease agreement at the time to purchase 5 new fire engines. So the way the city accounts for this is to book the expense and then offset the lease proceeds as the revenues, which totaled $3.7 million. So that's why you see that variance there when you look at that chart, and it kind of stands out to you. Our fire administration division houses most of the chiefs and administrative staff. The emergency medical division is committed to providing exceptional life-saving emergency medical services to our community. The training division provides high-quality training, educational opportunities, and promotional opportunities. The main priorities of facilities and fleet are maintaining the fire stations, which are the living quarters for our crews, and the fuel and maintenance of our apparatus. The slide you're looking at now is for community risk reduction. It's the revenues and expenditures. Community risk reduction, also known as fire prevention, is one of our main revenue generating divisions, and it generates revenue through inspections and permits. Some expenditures that are covered by this division is our agreement with our external plans examiner, which that's when we outsource a company to look at our plans, examine those plans. We do have some in-house examiners, but we're hoping to bolster that with a new position soon. Public education supplies, and the salaries and benefits for the fire marshal, the inspectors, and the administrative office staff. Up next is the Measure H revenues and expenditures. Fire prevention, administration, EMS, facilities, and fleet. Well, when you look at this, it's very easy to see what stands out. And you can look in fiscal year 24-25. This was the purchase of the 5 engines and the 2 trucks that we put on order. Again, we probably won't see those for a little over 3 years or longer, but they are on order, and that's why you see that big jump. But we were able to pay for those using Measure H. And also the Type 3 apparatus was paid for with Measure H. So that's why you see that big triangle-looking line, and it goes back down. And you can see where our ongoing expenditures are essentially those 9 positions that we have that are covered by Measure H, and that's about that 1.8 to 1.9 in the second year of our budget. Up next is the impact on Measure H on Modesto Fire Department. One of the areas that we focused on initially with Measure H was our EMS division. Obviously, as I've mentioned, and you know that EMS is one of the major calls that we respond to. Through this, we've been able to create a new position called the Medic 1 position, and this is a captain who is a paramedic is assigned to each shift, so there's 3 of them. And so since initiating that program in 2024, Medic 1 was put into service and has responded to 770 calls. Medic 1 captains and EMS coordinator provided 5,319 hours of training to our personnel. Just a note, recently we had an after-action review done by 6 different chief officers from around the state of California on the Franklin and Downs fire. And that's when we had the major explosion that potentially could have harmed up to 9 of our firefighters significantly. And thank goodness we escaped injury on that. But we did have an after-action team come in and evaluate that fire and tell us exactly what happened, how it happened, and also look at our operations and really evaluate our operations and our policies. And one of the things they commended us on was our Medic One program. So not only does our Medic One provide the EMS assistance during the normal operations, they are dispatched to every working structure fire. And when they respond to working structure fire, their assignment is dedicated to being a safety officer for our personnel. And so the after-action review team commended us on having the Medic One. So just wanted to note that. Also, we bought equipment. So as you know, we've outfitted each of our engines and our trucks with ALS equipment. So anytime there's a medic, they can work as a paramedic. So that's been one of the great additions that we've been able to buy with Measure H. When we look at fire rescue tools and equipment, frontline operational equipment, like hand tools have been replaced, parts, extrication and rescue equipment, medical equipment, fire ground equipment have been purchased to replace failing equipment and equipment at the end of its useful life. Again, we're just highlighting the 5 engines and 2 trucks that were prepaid using Measure H. Again, probably 3 to 4 years before they'll be here. This addresses our aging fleet. The standard front line of our fire engines is 10 years, and then we'll generally put them in 5 years reserve, and our trucks generally last 5 years, or 15 years, excuse me, and then we put them in reserve for another 5 years. And again, as I noted, Measure H also provided the opportunity to procure the new Type 3. That Type 3, one of its first out-of-county deployments was to the LA fires a few months ago. So we got to take it down there and support our neighbors in the south. And that vehicle replaced a 20-year-old vehicle that was rendered out of service in the most recent years. So great addition to our fleet, thanks to Measure H. Up next is our priority goals for fiscal year 25-26 and 26-27. Again, the fire department's priorities is to improve community safety and quality of life through a combination of prevention and intervention efforts that address safety and its underlying issues. Below that, we have community risk reduction, fire prevention. We'll adopt the 2025 fire code this year, creating uniformity in the municipal code across Modesto, Ceres, Oakdale, and Turlock, and complete all state mandated inspections. Emergency medical response, this is one of our goals, and we want to add 1 paramedic on every apparatus by sending 20 existing employees to paramedic school to enhance pre-hospital care while also focusing on community health. And finally, the fire department will increase the number of technically trained first responders in our region by working with Modesto Junior College to develop and centralize regional EMS training facility to create a pipeline of trained paramedics in our region to implement an instructional service agreement program to standardize, promote, and modernize training. This is part of our agreement with Modesto Junior College, and we're overseeing the fire technology program and the EMS program. So this is really a grassroots effort to grow our own personnel, both fire and EMS, right here in Stanislaus County. And our hope is to grow them here and keep them here. And we're going to do this through our partnership with Modesto Junior College. We hope to have our paramedic program up and running by next year. So this will really help us locally be able to send our personnel to a local paramedic school, and hopefully because they're local, they'll want to stay here and not go somewhere else. Measure H adjustments. Fiscal year 25-26, the Fire Department Measure H adjustment request. We had 2 approved requests. One is radio maintenance program, and the other one is our wildland gear funding. Our current wildland gear is at end of life and out of service. So this is going to be a great improvement to get all of it updated at one time. This is what carries our fire shelters and supports our firefighters when they're out on the line fighting wildland fires. And our radios is one of our most valuable tools that we have. So this enhancement will cover the cost of replacing these radios, the batteries, and associated equipment. So very fortunate to have that. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief, for that presentation. Any questions from the committee members? Yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
you're welcome.
On your 20 paramedic firefighters are going to go through that paramedic training, are you going to have a contract with them once they completed the program to assure that they're going to stay in Modesto for a period of time? Last thing you want to do is pay for somebody and then they go to Livermore or Pleasanton.
Sure.
So is there some kind of contract that you're thinking about?
I believe in the past we've had a 4-year agreement with them. One thing I will say, and I've only been here a short time now, 3.5 years, and prior to the new contract agreement, it wasn't a mass exodus, but it was fairly regular that we were losing firefighters to the Bay Area mainly, but to other departments. Since the new contract came into play last year, I don't think we've lost one firefighter. So I think it's helped with our retention. And that's my hope that in the future that helps us to be competitive and they'll want to stay here. And also want to stay here because of what our fire department is, and it's a great place to work.
One more question. With the move I see going towards, with the advanced life support on each engine, as you look into the future with having paramedics at each station, are you going to be looking at, I don't know what they call them, but I looked it up I Googled it last night, paramedic fire truck squad? It's not a fire truck, but it's like the one we have at Station 1. Are you going to be wanting to go into that direction instead of having...
It's definitely possible in the future. Within the next couple of years, the ambulance contract will be available for bid. So I think it's something that we need to take a real strong look at and see if that's our fit for the vision for the future. But there is going to be an opportunity to participate in that within the next couple of years.
And one final question. I see the reports daily that come out, but the number of calls, is it like 80% of those calls, I think, are medical?
I would say it's close to that. Maybe just under that, but very, very close.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
I love your growing them here, keeping them here concept. That makes sense. And as well as your partnership with MJC. Is this the partnership where you, this past summer, had a camp for young females interested in perhaps pursuing a career in firefighting?
Yeah, it is. That's we partnered with the junior college, and we did our first annual, which we hope is annual, so we hope we have another one, Women's Empowerment Camp. So it was girls 16 to 21, and I believe we had roughly 80 participate that day, and it was a full day of events, and we put them through all the different stations, all the different things that firefighters get to do. And I know we've definitely changed course on some of these young ladies' lives. They now want to be firefighters, and we've been contacted by them, and they want to know what else they can do to become a firefighter.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Mayor or Councilmember Rickett, do you have any questions? Okay, Mayor. Okay, wonderful. Then we'll open it up to the public this time. Is there any member of the public that wishes to come and ask a question or make a comment? Please come forward, and if you wouldn't mind stating your name.
Hello, I'm Vivian Lopez, and I just have a couple of questions to kind of have a better understanding of the Fire Academy and then the training and requirements for our firefighters. So I kind of assumed that the Modesto Fire Department was kind of already working in partnership with the MJC. And I see that, for example, and I'm reading here that when they go through the regional program, that they come out with as a certified firefighter 2, and then they need to be, they're considered student, completes the academy, works as a volunteer firefighter for 1 year, or a full-time paid firefighter for 6 months. And then students complete this program will receive their standalone certificates. So if the fire chief can explain that, captain, I think. And then I also kind of was wondering, like, do most firefighters that apply for a position, do they come in already? Maybe what's the percentage that might already come in with their paramedic certification when they apply? Are there any incentives or benefits for those that do come in with their paramedic? Because I always thought that it would be those that have their paramedic certification would be maybe looked at a better way to possibly be hired because they have that training. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Chief, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. So the fire science program at Modesto Junior College, once they go through the Modesto Junior College Fire Academy, they can come out of there with what's called a firefighter 1, and then they have to back up that firefighter 1 with some sort of experience, and it can be volunteer experience or paid experience to get their certification. And then after 1 year of being a firefighter, they can apply for their firefighter 2. That's what she mentioned, their firefighter. So what this does is they go through Modesto Junior College, they go through the fire academy. That is one of the base requirements to apply for any job. The next thing you need is an EMT. Well, we provide that training at Modesto Junior College, also starting with the first responder program or EMR program. Then we offer the EMT program. So those two, firefighter 1 and the EMT, that's the base to go test anywhere to get a job. As far as paramedics, yes, we do take a strong look at all paramedics that apply with us. We look at their overall resume, but it is definitely one of the desirable qualifications that we look at when we go to hire, and they do receive a pay incentive if they are hired.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Any other questions from members of the public? Please step forward.
Good evening again. My name is Tzafril Solomon, and I just have one question for the chief. He talked about relation with all kind of programs, and there is a company in Oakdale that building fire trucks. They selling them in many states outside California. They sell them all over California. They sell them to many fire departments in the Bay Area. They service them, and I just can't understand why there's barely relation with that company. What the reason for that? I know that it's definitely one of the best companies in this country. There are no ways that so many fire departments in the Bay Area, or especially outside the state, will go and buy fire trucks from them. And I just can't understand why we here, we try to help. We're always talking about help local businesses, but then when we have the opportunity to do it, especially with a big company, we're not doing it. So I just wonder what's the reason for that. And they local, they here to service, They're here to do the training. You don't need to fly to, I don't know, Texas, Ohio, whatever. They're right here. And I just wonder what's the reason for it.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Who he's referring to is called High Tech Fire Apparatus. They're in Oakdale. They've been there for a long time. Previously, many members of that company worked for a company, one of the oldest companies, which was called Van Pelt, and they were one of the oldest companies in the United States to build fire engines. We just took delivery of a brand new Type 1 last week with Stanislaus Consolidated Fire, which we oversee. And then last year, we took delivery of 2 Type 1s in the city of Oakdale, which we oversee that contract also. Here in the city of Modesto, we've had a long-standing tradition of running Pierce manufacturing. And part of the reasoning for that is to keep uniformity within our fleet. So our personnel are trained, they're familiar with the same apparatus. Our maintenance folks are familiar with the apparatus. They stock the parts for that apparatus. We stock many of the parts over there at the maintenance yard. So it's really uniformity and training of our fleet is why we prefer to stick with Pierce Manufacturing. And they're also a high-quality fire apparatus manufacturer in this country. And I say high-tech has been great, too. I worked on one for 10 years. So I worked on a high-tech fire apparatus, and it was a great apparatus. So there's nothing wrong with them either.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions from the members of the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee and close public comments at this time. Does the Finance Committee have any final comments? None? Mayor, Councilmember Ricky? None?
Just grateful for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for your presentation and, as the Mayor said, for your service of yours and your teams. Okay, moving forward, we have now Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Department. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair and committee members. My name is Jeremy Rogers, and I'm your Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhoods Director. I'll give you a quick overview of our department. We are currently divided into 3 divisions: administration, and I'll give you a little more detail. Administration, park ops, and recreation services. The mission in our department is creating community through people, parks, programs, and facilities. That's what we do. That's who we are. That's why we're here. Under the administrative division, we oversee budget, master plan, accreditation, fund development, special projects, Modesto Center Plaza, John Thurman Field, and of course the 2 golf courses, Dryden and Creekside. We also oversee cultural services, those McHenry Mansion, McHenry Museum, all of our historical properties. Park operations, they maintain 75 city parks, trails, recreation facilities, Griseda pool, splash pads, any amenity that goes into one of those 75 parks, they maintain. Park operations provides seasonal fire breaks, weed abatements, tagging abatement services, manage the landscaping contracts at our parks, medians, and right-of-ways. And then they assist and help set up and help clean up, help prepare for the numerous events that we do throughout the entire city. And as you know, we used to have a 4th division, Parks Planning and Development. They are now under Engineering Services, so Toby will speak on them. Our org chart consists of 64.75 full-time employees. And again, it used to be more, but those individuals have moved over to Engineering Services. Here's a breakdown of the allocation of our employees. We have 45 general fund employees, 14 Measure H. Those are housed in park operations, and then the 5.75 enterprise employees. That's housed at Modesto Center Plaza. Breaking down our revenues and expenditures, This is broken down by general fund and Measure H. Currently, we have $16 million in general fund. That includes all the administration, park operations, and of course, recreation. This does not include CVB and the TOT. That is being moved over to CED. Also, we have 2.5 in general fund Measure H. This is entirety in park operations. Okay. Moving on, the golf fund. One thing that I'd like to point out here is the subsidy is lowered this year due to the debt service of Creekside Golf Course being paid off. We no longer have that debt service, so that will help significantly. And then, of course, Modesto Center Plaza here, depending on what happens with that through the Surplus Land Act, we'll see where that takes us. Okay, here is some diving deeper into the numbers. In administration, we have revenue of about $38,000. One thing I want to point out here is that we'll no longer have the lease for the nuts. That will expire this year, so we'll no longer be receiving that revenue. However, we'll see what comes of that through that project. Also, we have a minor revenue increase in golf due to the green fees increases that I'll talk to more during the revenue piece of this of the budget workshop. We anticipate about $80,000 coming in on that. Expenses are about $63,000 increase. Most of that is due to salaries. Okay. Oops, went one too far. Park operations. We have an increase in revenue of about $150,000. We're doing more rentals, more ball field reservations, things like that. So the more rentals we have, the more revenues go up. So that's a good thing. The expenses are down this year, and I want to highlight that we moved about $500,000 out of park operations over into Measure H. That's for the watering, and that is a reflection of the turf reduction that we did through Measure H project. Okay. Recreation services. We have a $1.3 million reduction, and that is due to a redundancy in part-time salaries that are housed in the after-school program. And that's also a reflection in our expenses as well. Looking forward, our number one goal this upcoming fiscal year is our master plan. We want to complete our first ever Parks and Recreation Neighborhoods Master Plan. This will be done I'm anticipating January or February of 2026. This is a huge priority for our department as well as our city council, so we look forward to getting that completed. That'll give us a roadmap for the next 5 to 10 years. Also, another goal of ours is over the next fiscal year is to increase programming at our historical properties from both free and paid programming, as well as add new exhibits that have not been here before. We have a new special events policy that I'll be presenting on probably tomorrow, and that will include 2 new directives. One will be to support the large-scale community events, the co-sponsorships, and then the other one will be a grant policy will go towards contributions of in-kind as well as monetary to local groups. Also in recreation, we have a new special event permit process. We worked with CED to shorten it down and to create a more streamlined process and work with our community to issue those permits and have those special events. The last 2 priorities which we are involved with are deferred maintenance and refining the Measure H spending to create a more long-term sustainability. Okay, let's talk about Measure H adjustments. We have one for this fiscal year. This is a rentable community stage. This is for $260,000. We currently have a stage. It is on its last leg. I think we have one more event, and that's the 4th of July parade that we'll be using it, and then we will retire it, and we'll have a new stage that will allow us to generate revenue. We'll sell sponsorships. We'll be able to use it at parades, special events, things like that. Okay, I rushed through that pretty quickly, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the Finance Committee? Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The stage you're talking about, that's that portable stage that we discussed last year, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And fourth quarter 24, you and I met with a constituent of mine from La Loma neighborhood regarding anyone over 90 years old would not be charged a green fee at Creekside or Dryden. Is that being implemented?
We're still working through that process. We need to take a look at what the impact will be of that. And so we're coming up with a few ideas of how to implement that, or some special things we can do for our senior population. We are not implementing that as right now, but we are coming up with ideas of what we can do to get more golfers out there.
90-year-old golfer, okay, I'm not going to comment on that. I'm going to say this, though, there's not that many 90-year-olds plus playing golf, number one. And number two, I think that's something that we should do in this budget. I can't imagine it's going to have a major impact. And number three, you need to have it structured like certain times during the week that they can play. You don't want them playing Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. And number four, if we don't do anything about this, I'm going to refer them to you.
Okay. You said it publicly. Okay, so noted.
I wrote it down.
Okay, sounds good.
Feisty guy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember
Thank you,
Wright.
Chair. So lately, I've noticed that, especially in my district, there's been some events happening at parks that shouldn't have events. How are we policing that right now?
So that's where we're currently working with the police department, those park rangers that Chief Gillespie spoke about, getting them into the parks. And our parks are open spaces. We want people in them, but we want them to go through the process and want them to abide by our rules. So when we are able to make contact with those individuals, we reach out to them and we educate them and take them through what that process looks like.
And I think there's certain parks that these events are happening more so than at other parks. One of them is Mary Sanders Park because of the way it's set up and everything. I know there's been 3 events in the last year there, weddings, where one of them had a full-born caterer, tables, chairs, and the whole shebang. And then one about 2 weeks ago, another wedding was there. So I think, hopefully we can have our park rangers really target the parks that are not supposed to have any type of events like that. I know we have parks where people can get permits to have an event, and I think it'd be good to get that out to the public on what parks that they can and cannot have an event. Social media, whatever we can do, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will say that the police department, we work very closely with them. If we hear of things, we'll let them know, and they put it on their radar. So they're very responsive to that.
I have a couple questions. I believe that this falls under Parks and Rec. The rent fees for antenna space, or are they towers that we own? Does that fall under your
Correct.
department?
Yes.
How much revenue do we bring in this area, and is that increasing?
I don't have that number with me. I can get that for you.
Is it sizable?
Yes, it is.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind.
And we have long-term contracts with those. I can
Yes, if
have
you
that
wouldn't mind
available for you.
putting that in the parking lot and getting back to us on that. Also, you reference the the fees that go towards watering the lawns at our parks, it being transferred now to be paid by Measure H. Was that correct?
That is correct.
How much is this? And will this be, moving forward, a permanent transfer to be paid by Measure H, or is that on a temporary basis?
I'll answer that. So currently, the general fund side pays for 2 days of watering at the park. Measure H pays the third day of watering in the park, because in the hot summers, obviously, we want to get the third day. Without Measure H, we would not have had a third day. That's why
I
Measure H is
see.
paying for it. And then along those same lines, we continue with our turf reduction program within the parks to take out unnecessary turf so that we don't have to continue to water. So we're looking at actually trying to decrease the amount of water that's happening in the parks.
So not all 3 days are being paid by Measure H, only the third day?
Only the third day.
And that might change given our exploring the turf situation and,
Yeah, our goal is to reduce how much we're watering in our parks in general on both sides, but just in the third day is only Measure H.
wonderful, thank you. And my last question is in regards to new playground equipment. Is this something that should be captured in these figures, or will that be under maintenance? What is that?
Deferred maintenance?
Deferred maintenance.
So that will be in Toby's presentation.
Okay.
There are some playgrounds that you guys will see coming before you, and so Toby will present on that, because that's under park planning and development. They'll develop it, they'll design it, and then they'll hand it over to Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood.
Oh, interesting, okay. Thank you very much. Any further questions from the committee? Any questions from the council?
Thanks, Chair. First of all, Dave, are you a wedding crasher or? All right,
I
fine.
just get complaints.
Fine, I got you. All right.
Thought I saw you there, bud.
All right. Any upgrades for parks? That's Toby. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct, for the major projects.
What about just regular upgrades?
For example, benches,
Yeah.
water fountains, that's done with our park operations.
Okay. Can you walk me through any regular upgrades that you have in the budget for 2025?
So we'll go through that in the deferred maintenance and preventive maintenance presentation. I believe it's tomorrow.
Okay. You mentioned turf reduction.
Correct.
Super excited about that. I love not having to spend money on water. We need to do it, right, to a certain point, but like, it's great if we can do less of that. My question is, like, do we have plans to do more of that? Because that's awesome.
Yes, we do. We're just going to keep growing. The ones that we have done so far have been very successful, and we will continue to do that.
And how much money have we saved so far from those?
It's still early
projects?
because we've only done it for a year, and then we're still finishing those projects. So I will have better numbers for you next year of what exactly we are saving. I can give you an exact number. And Toby will comment on some of those numbers tomorrow, but they're very preliminary.
Fair. We've been talking about soccer fields, and I've been getting feedback from residents about our answers, because we have good answers. But one of the challenges with soccer fields is that you've got these volunteer moms and dads coaching these teams, and we're charging a very reasonable amount, $30, whatever. But if you've got 10 practices over the course of the season, that adds up quick for an individual mom or dad. Is there anything we can do in the budget to try to make it easier for these volunteer parents to use actual fields to practice on, without going bankrupt, obviously? I don't know, I'm not sure if how often they're used or how much revenue we'd lose. But I just think it's a question we need to ask. Do we need to maybe reserve certain fields for volunteer moms and dads to rent at a, first come, first served basis kind of thing? I just feel like we have a hole here in our community for this kind of thing. For for my family, I've had two kids that have so far that have played soccer in Modesto for different leagues. My daughter played MYSA, my son played Stanislaus Youth, and they're different systems with different practices, but they all had one thing in common. Didn't matter which league they were in, didn't matter what part of the city they were in, nobody ever practiced with a goal. It just didn't happen. And so I see that as a real, it's just kind of like a hole in our system that I'd love for us to address. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor, any questions?
I just have a question about if there's much collaborative work between fire, police, and Parks and Rec. I see it as a lot of opportunities to crossover to prevent injuries and obviously safety in our parks. That's where a lot of our discussion evolves around is parks. So I just wondered what that collaboration looks like. And I know, the police officers do a lot of park activities to increase community engagement, that kind of thing. So is there like regular planning to really look proactively at how these operations can work together?
Absolutely. That's one thing I love about the City of Modesto. We all work together, and one thing that we partner with the fire department on and Chief Wise is a life jacket loaner program. We loan out life jackets to anyone for free. They can go to certain fire stations, and we do a social media blast and put it out there where they can pick up a free life jacket, go use it, and then bring it back. And that's been a very successful program. Last year within the community outside of Modesto, there are several drownings, and we don't want that. We don't want that in our community, and we want people to learn to swim, and we want them to learn to swim right. So we offer all kinds of swim lessons, all kinds of life-saving type classes, and the fire department backs us on that. And so it is definitely a collaboration.
Right. I had the opportunity to, by sort of accident, come across the lifeguard training at Johansson High School. I think we were filming. We were out there to film.
Yes, we were.
Something, a promotional video, and it's intense and impressive. How do we recruit young people to participate in that program, or do we even have to recruit? It looked like a packed house.
We do have to recruit. We do go into all the high schools. We use a referral program, and you can never have too many lifeguards, so we're always doing recruiting, but our staff does a great job of getting out into the schools and meeting them face to face. Recruiting a lifeguard, a teenage worker, is completely different than recruiting a normal employee, and the way we communicate with them is different. And so we have a wonderful staff that is able to work with teenagers and communicate with them and get them on board. We partner with HR to streamline the process, to take them the applications and to go to them, so that we don't just have to sit around and wait for people to apply.
Great. Yeah, it was really intense, and they were extremely attentive and getting a great education. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, hang on. Okay, any more questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it to the public at this point. Anyone wishing to speak on this item? I do not have any green cards, so please step forward, and if you could please articulate your name for the record.
Hello again, I'm Vivian Lopez. I just wanted to share that on April the 15th, myself and I was at the Stanislaus Veteran Center for the Modesto Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and had a good evening and learned a lot, and I really enjoyed hearing you talk about all the information, and using the Menti for the survey was really effective, and I really enjoyed it. And I know there's another lady here that I met there at that meeting. So I just wanted to say we had a really nice evening.
Thank you, ladies, for participating in that. We had a very well-attended event that day, and your input was very valuable. Anyone else wishing to speak on public comment? Yes, Mr. Solomon, please step forward.
Good evening again. I just want to mention a few things about the golf courses in Modesto. And well, I have to say, it's probably a year since I've been there last time. So if something changed, my apology. But a year ago, Creekside and Dryden, I have to say, they look like, if you go and look at different golf courses around this area, you will understand what I'm talking about. And Creekside, man, I've been on Creekside since they opened this place, and it was used to be a beautiful place. A year ago this time was so dirty. Weeds around the clubhouse, everything, and weeds all over the course, all the flower beds full with weeds. The bunkers, it's like you play in a field of mud. And anyway, one day was kind of like the end of May, maybe beginning of June last year. I was there, and the place, Creekside, looked beautiful. And I saw somebody that I know that plays there a lot, and I asked him, what happened? And he told me, what do you mean what happened? So I told him, well, I've been here, twice a month at least, and lately this place looked like hell. And now it looks so clean and nice. And so he told me, you don't know, there is a city tournament in a week. So basically, and for city tournaments, sometimes people from outside the city come to play. So to make sure that other people think what they think about our city, once a year, maybe the city take good care of the place, and it's beautiful, but they don't really care much about their own people who play there all the time. And yes, there is a lot of older people, that I'm thinking, what Mr. Bavaro said, I think it'd be great if a 90 years old man won't have to pay. That could be great, and it shouldn't take so long. And another things about Dryden, like I said, I wasn't there for almost a year, but the last few years the clubhouse caught on fire, and there's no clubhouse over there. And golfers, when they go out and golf, they like after or before sit with their buddies and maybe eat something, drink something, and have fun. But when you don't have a clubhouse, you can't do it. But the city always raised the price, but it seems like the service that golfers get in, it's less and less. And probably not too many golfers complain because they probably don't want to spend the time even to come here. But a lot of them, trust me, a lot of them feel exactly the way I feel and maybe even worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon, for your comments. Is there any more public comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee. Does the committee have any final comments?
Yeah, I do.
Please.
Jeremy, do you want to comment on the clubhouse at Dry Creek? I know that we have the design for it. It's going to be larger and much nicer. And what's the update on that?
Yes, we do have a design for that. We're currently working through with budget and finance, what that looks like, how we pay for that, and I believe there will be more information coming in the presentations tomorrow.
And can you give us an update on the maintenance of the two golf courses?
Yes, we currently partner with, or we contract with Kemper Sports to oversee the operations, and then with Brightview to do the maintenance. And we work very closely with them, and we have identified some issues. They've addressed them for us. They are responsive, so we'll continue to address those issues as they come up, and making sure that we are providing our golfers with a great golfing experience.
And how often does staff go out to check to make sure those are being upkeep?
Regularly. Yeah, we're out there quite often.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Wright. Vice Mayor?
When is the clubhouse at Dryden going to be completed?
I'm sorry, what was
Are we going to put another clubhouse at Dryden?
Yes.
What's the timeline on that?
So it's currently in design, and then we're working with finance and budget to see what that looks like, how we pay for that, and how that affects the city's going forward.
What's that? So what was the insurance claim on that?
It was just under $4 million. Right at $4 million.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the committee? Mayor, Councilmember Ricky, any comments?
No comments.
My comment is that there's a temporary clubhouse at Dryden, as far as I know, and a portable.
Yes.
That when I spoke with the golfers that were out there, they seemed to enjoy that and appreciated it, at least for a temporary place to go post-golf or pre-golf, while waiting for this beautiful clubhouse that will be designed and is forthcoming. My only comment is regarding Parks and Recreation that you mentioned briefly. I'll go back to the opportunity for swimming lessons, and this fits in with fire. It's all about prevention, and children need to learn how to swim so they can be safe around water. And our brand new Parks and Recreation activity guide just came out. It's probably, I don't know, close to 40 pages. I just looked at it again online. And there are multiple pages of listed of opportunities where children can take swimming lessons. I saw all too often the devastating results of children that are unable to swim when I worked in the emergency room. And I just have to use this opportunity to encourage anyone within the sound of my voice, if you know children that do not know how to swim, please sign them up. The lifeguards are trained incredibly well. This will help our firefighters not have to take care of children that have had drowning or near drowning incidents, and will make our community safer and better for everyone. So I can't stress it enough. It's so important for children to learn how to swim. Even teenagers or adults also to learn how to swim. And it was mentioned that outside of our city, we've had drowning incidents in the lakes and reservoirs, and it's a problem for adults also. So I encourage everyone to learn how to swim. Thank you very much for all of the effort that you put forward. Our senior center is thriving. Our parks have incredible amounts of activities for people to participate in, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jeremy, for your presentation. So that concludes the Parks and Rec presentation. Now, time pulse, it's 7:45. Is it the will of the committee to dive into the charter officers, beginning with the city manager's office for 15 minutes? Or do you feel that we should conclude at this point and resume again tomorrow at 8:30?
I'm ready to go on.
Go on? Go on? Okay, so with that, I'll hand over the speaker to City Manager Joe Lopez.
All right. Good evening, Chair. It's a much different perspective over here. I won't stay up there like Jose will.
No, he'll go
He
down.
told
I'll
me
be
to
put on
open
the
up with a
spot.
joke, so I tried to lighten this up. Sorry about that. All right, so good evening, Joe Lopez, your city manager. I'm going to go over the city manager's office budget. So the city manager's office is made up of two divisions. The first part is main administration to execute council direction and implement the strategic plan. Also act as a liaison for intergovernmental affairs and provide oversight to all non-charter officer city departments through the direction of the city council. We also have the community and media relations and legislative affairs division. That division oversees all citywide communication, manages our city website, our social media platforms, and also community events. And also this division oversees our state and federal lobbyists, and then to develop, monitor, and promote our legislative platform. Here is a brief look at our org chart. We have a total of 9 FTE in the city manager's office. This has changed from previous years. The city manager's office used to contain The budget division, that has become its own separate department for the Office of Performance Management and Budget. That's why you see the reduction in the number of positions within the city manager's office. Under revenues and expenditures, you can see from fiscal year 24-25 to what's proposed in 25-26, there's a slight decrease. That is mainly due to the removal of the budget division out of the city manager's office. Under Measure H, $255,000, that is for increased communication and marketing services that we pay for out of the city manager's office. Here is a graphical representation of those numbers. Nothing really to note here. Here is the communications budget. You can see the increase in number of not only positions, but also ancillary budget in order to accommodate all citywide communication and activities. We have a separate cost center within the city manager's office is for citywide organizational dues. So this is for things like LAFCO, StanCog, League of California Cities. It's just in a separate cost center for better accounting. The impact of Measure H, so far we can see large increases in all of our activity across our various platforms, including Facebook and Instagram, and also notably on our website is up 25%, and those are unique users, not repeat users of our website. So those are all unique numbers. Our priorities and goals for the city maintain fiscal responsibility and accountability, as well as sustainability of the city, continuing to manage our pension liability and healthcare costs. Steve mentioned early in our presentation, our pension costs continue to increase, our unfunded liability continues to increase, and our ability to manage those costs are extremely important. The downtown and muni development is high on our priority list. One of the things that we heard throughout our council workshops was also the communication and marketing of all city services and programs. We heard you loud and clear in that area, and we are working to enhance those levels of service. Also continue to focus on homeless programs and initiatives. That continues to be a top priority of the city manager's office, as well as the implementation of the smart city strategy, our parking strategy, and our grant oversight program. That is it. I do not have any new Measure H requests this year, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? I do have a question, not in what you covered, but in the supporting materials you shared. There is a cost center name, fund name, it's 0100 general fund. Under the CMO budget division totals, you break down communications and legislative affairs A, B, and C, and then revised. Does that sound familiar?
What's it say?
REV, so it's 4 rows.
Oh, that's the revenue.
Okay, revenue, so it's A, B, C, and then revenue. What's A, B, and C?
So appropriation unit A's are all of our salaries and benefits. Appropriation unit B's are our internal service funds. And then appropriation C's are our discretionary funds.
And what does internal services mean?
So internal service funds are things like IT, fleet, work comp, general liability. Those are what we consider our internal service funds.
Okay. From this year to next year, this year, fiscal year 23-24, we show no expenditure, but next year, $39,393.
For what?
For column B, as in boy.
Does it say? Does it say which cost center?
Yes, it's cost center 02015. Yeah, that's all. Everything's under communications and legislative affairs.
Is that under revenue?
It's under.
I don't have the sheet in front of me.
General fund, cost center name, and then it has AP.
We'll just we'll
Okay,
report
just,
back.
it's something that wasn't there in 22, 23. nor this year, but will be next year. So just curious what that
We'll get you an
new, okay. All right,
So that's just when we split out the communications division to their own cost center. That's why you don't see previous charges in 22 and 23. So we split
I'll
out.
say, your mic's not on. So in previous years, the communication division was just lumped into the city manager's office. We split out the unit in order for better tracking and monitoring of the expenses related to communication. That's why you don't see previous years have any expenditures, because we didn't break it out until a couple years ago.
oh, I see. Okay, thank you very much. And I thought our 2 new employees that support the mayor and the council's office reported to the city manager's office. I don't see them in your org chart.
They do, but they're in the city council budget.
Oh, I see. And hence, they're in that org chart. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Okay. Council, please. Any questions from the council?
Yeah, I have a question. So pension cost wise, it seemed like we were doing pretty good, but now suddenly things are more uncertain. So I was just kind of curious as to your perspective on the long-term pension liabilities that we have. How's it looking and where are we going?
Sure, and the Human Resources Department does have a specific slide on pensions, but I will tell you, we do not have a lot of control over pension costs, as they are predicated on market conditions and their ability to and their rate of return, and that is what directly derives how much we're actually paying. Now, we are going to hit a cliff with pensions, but it's many, many years out. As more Pepper employees come online and more Classic employees fall off, our pension costs will start to go down.
Thank you.
That's a good cliff.
Mayor, no questions?
No, I just wanted to clarify that it's 1 new employee for the council, not 2. So the 1 was previous, and then we added 1, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So now we'll open up to the public. Is there any members of the public wishing to ask any questions in this agenda item?
Good evening again. I just want to talk for a couple of minutes about homelessness in this town. I didn't talk about them for a long time, and I want to mention that if you drive around the streets here, you see much less people, but they're still out there. They're just hiding. They can't be on the street anymore, and they have their own places where they're going to. So this is one thing. I think, I have a feeling government in general, and I'm not blaming you for anything. Every little bit that's done, it's great. Like this program that the place open on the 9th and D, everything is great. But I have a feeling that the government, they do a little bit here, a little bit there to bring the television stations, some reporters. But the truth of the matter, the last 6 years, I read an article that talked about $37 billion in California that's spent on homelessness with really nothing to show for. Because more and more non-profit organizations, and that's what the government do, is they give it all to non-profit organizations to run those programs, most of them going down. And if they don't go down, they still, most of the money not even going to the cause. Most of the money going to create job for this family, for this, for that. But that's not the point. I really hope we have a governor that want to be a president in 4 years, and hopefully he'll make cities and county come with programs to make sure that to take all those people off the street. But another thing I like to say, and that's, if you go on the street with people that really know the people on the street, you realize that sometimes you have maybe half an hour, and that's the difference between taking somebody off the street and start helping him and change his life, or nothing be able to done for this person. And unfortunately, most people that are on the streets, they have mental issue, because how you can't when you stay on the street for so long. So I really believe that the city, maybe with CHAD, the police, they should have a program when somebody on the street tells somebody he want help, he want to get off the street, there'll be somebody there in half an hour, 45 minutes, somebody stay by him, and somebody show up to take him from the street to move him to a real place. And that can definitely help them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the audience wishing to make a comment or ask a question at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment at this point, bring it back to the Finance Committee. Any final comments?
Yeah, my last comment is, Mr. Solomon, we do have a program, it's called Chat, and anyone that wants help, they can get help. And I have called Chat on individuals at my office. Chat has come out, and Chat has actually loaded them up and taken them to services because they wanted services. So we are doing that, but a lot of people that are on the streets don't want help. They want to be left alone. So that is a issue we have throughout this nation, that we can't force people out of homelessness. We are a free society, and if a person chooses not to work or just live on the streets, as long as they're not breaking the law, there's really not much that we can do as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wright. Mayor, Councilmember Ricky, do you have any final comments? No? Okay. Well, that concludes, it's 8 o'clock sharp, and that was a nice wrap up for the day. Tomorrow we will come.
You want to have him, Jose?
Tomorrow.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Do you all want to go to 8:30?
I'm not sure that we should, because the public has been told it ends at 8 p.m., so I think that's when we end.
You eager beaver, relax. Okay. So we'll go ahead and conclude this.
Oh, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. The agenda does not have an ending. I'm good for all night. I've done that before, so you decide.
We did take the end date off and all of our communications out, so we can go a little bit further if we want. I would suggest we just get through the charter officers, and then we'll start tomorrow with community economic development. Because I don't think these next 3 presentations will take much time.
Is the committee fine with that recommendation?
Good.
All right. Okay, well, that being said, that we'll move forward. Next on the agenda is City Attorney's Office. Okay.
No pressure, right? I did not put the end time on the agenda because I knew I was going to be up at the end. And I have a lot of things to say.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. A quick department overview, who we are. And I think all of you know kind of what we do. We really support staff in their day-to-day operations. All of those projects, those great projects that come before you as far as part of your strategic plan or that staff works on, usually has a legal component to it. You know, I always kind of tell people, all the items you see here at the council meetings, the 30, the 40, whatever it is items, pass through my office in the course of getting here to make sure that legally we're doing everything correct. We also support the council in council meetings, closed sessions, providing advice to council, and we also draft several legal documents like ordinances, agreements, leases, etc. The City Attorney's Office, we also manage the litigation. We manage both civil and criminal litigation. Going to court, one of the main things that we are focused on, and we'll talk about our priorities as well, quality of life issues. So looking at this, looking at like going to court for issues such as blight, different housing regulations that may be broken, or just or administrative hearings like for code enforcement citations as well. The org chart for the City Attorney's Office, as you can see, we do have a couple of red employees up there as far as the box, and those are to designate the Measure H employees, and we'll go into that a little further. But the office, I have a great team. The city currently, as the city knows, currently we have City of Modesto employees, and then the city also contracts with my firm to provide city attorney services. As far as FTEs, there are 6. We have 2 deputy city attorneys, 2 paralegals, 1 legal secretary, and we do have an administrative office assistant that we are currently recruiting for. This shows the employee, the change over the years. The change in the 2 employees, it's been pretty flat at 4, but we did add 2 with the Measure H funding. The council did allow us to get another deputy city attorney and a legal secretary to assist in the community prosecution, and we'll go into that when I get to Measure H. As far as our revenues and expenses, we try very hard to keep that as flat as possible. I will note that the peak or the spike in fiscal year 26-27, that will be coming down a little. There is a number, and Chair, you mentioned as far as the ISFs and the different pots, there's an ISF charge there that's going to change, so that'll be a little flatter as well with the other lines. When we look at the city attorney's budget, there's also, and I know in your binders you have the A's, the B's, and the C's. The A's being for staff costs. Those are City of Modesto employee costs, and that is close to, that's over, projected for 25-26, it's over $700,000 in costs for the employees. And then we all have those ISFs will be closer to $200,000, and then we have the discretionaries a little over $1 million. This slide here represents our Measure H funding. As you can see, that shows when we hired our legal secretary and our deputy city attorney to do the prosecution, and that's strictly their salary costs. Impacts of Measure H. We ended up adding, as I mentioned, a deputy city attorney and a legal secretary to assist. The reason why is when you had the police chief come up here and you see more police officers equals more citations as well, and we'll go through a slide of how citations picked up. More code enforcement officers also equals more possible infractions, notice of violations. We have to go ahead and do that work as well, go to court on those citations. Again, focus on quality of life violations, illegal dumping, graffiti, blight, nuisance conditions, and different items that are very important to the city. Just to illustrate the prosecution, the slide shows prosecution of the Modesto Municipal Code. That's what we prosecute. We go to court. You see a big spike in 23-24. Currently in 24-25, we are at 886 as of when we prepare this document, and we still have a couple months to go of going to court and on different citations. The department priorities and goals. The reality is, I joke with your department heads and the city manager, and I say, well, what are the council's priorities? What are your priorities? What are you working on? Because that's what we are working on as well. Some of the priorities are, of course, to continue kind of moving forward that strategic plan. The council has said, here's our strategic plan. Our job is to make sure to assist staff and the council to keep moving that forward with quality of life, a lot of focus on quality of on community safety and quality of life issues. Again, we talked about the community prosecution, the administrative hearings for code enforcement violations, working on very important ordinances related to quality of life. That's the goal 1. We also have the economic development goal. We're very much involved with the city's work related to the stadium, the general plan, housing. We have a component in all of those different projects that are going on right now with staff. I keep this goal up there because this is what we always try to do. We try to manage cost, and we try to make sure that although the legal landscape continues to change, if you look at the legislature
lots of laws. Every single year, the legislature is very active. So all of your departments have to shift different things. We have to be there to advise, but we still try to manage our costs to stay as flat as we can. There are some spikes. It does go up and down depending on the big projects, but that's always a priority. Also, continued education, training. One thing that has worked well, and we want to focus on it even more this year, is providing staff with additional training, such as Brown Act, Public Records Act training, working with our code enforcement department, even agenda report writing training. I have my office involved in that. And we are currently working as well on providing training, even for the city council, the AB 1234s, things like that. Sometimes doing them in person is a little, just for me, sometimes it's better than going to a conference and just kind of doing it there. That maybe we could have something here instead. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Vice Mayor, any questions? I have some questions.
Yes.
On your slide for your org chart, of those positions you are identified, which ones are your FTEs?
So the FTEs, only 6
Right.
FTEs. The red ones are the FTEs paid for by Measure H.
2.
And then we have another prosecuting deputy city attorney.
Okay, you've got 3,
The paralegal manager,
4,
paralegal,
5.
administrative office assistant.
I see. And okay. And the rest are from your firm?
Yes. So the rest are different expertise that we have in our firm, and we just put there kind of the experts that normally are engaging with the city that are called upon as from my firm.
Okay, thank you. And then on slide page 13, prosecution and administrative hearing cases. Very impressive. I had no idea that we prosecuted and had that many administrative cases. So it's doubled from fiscal year 22, 23 to 23, 24, and it's kind of stayed, it's gone down a little bit. But what do you attribute that to?
Well, we do have a couple months left on that 24, 25.
So it might be
maybe
even, if
it'll-
not a little bit more.
Maybe, but I attribute that to also the focus of the police department as well. Because again, more officers are out there, more officers are issuing citations, there are more citations for us to go to court over. So the more officers you have, the more focus on their end, we're the ones going to court on those citations.
Yeah,
I
that's,
thought the police department would go to, the police officer went to court.
No, the police officer, when there are citations for the Modesto Municipal Code, those are the ones we end up going to court for.
and then my last question is, the revenue that might come in from not court cases, but situations where we are provided a settlement, where is that reflected?
That is usually reflected in the departments or in the, I don't know if risk, it's departmental, I don't know if risk also? It's on.
So we would reflect settlement.
Yes,
Okay.
Speak loud.
Freaking out now. We would reflect it in the non-departmental area, so we have a non-departmental cost center where we put settlement funds, or like Jose said, in some of the departments, depending on the settlement. So like when we had the, it wasn't really a legal settlement, but I'm thinking of insurance claims, but yeah, so they would go in the department or in, be dispersed into that non-departmental area.
And in the department, it would be line item, what would it be, how would it be referenced?
I think it's called legal settlements.
Legal settlements?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to put them under my budget, but I was told not to put it there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with no further questions from the committee, Councilmember Ricky, Mayor, any questions? Seeing none, I'll open it up to the public. Does the public have any questions? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the committee for any comments. Seeing none, thank you, Jose, for that presentation. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is City Clerk.
Good evening, Finance Committee members and council members. I will try to get through this quickly, or not as quickly as I read the consent calendar. Diane Nayar Perez, your city clerk. I will begin with an overview of the city clerk's office. City clerk's office has 3 areas of main responsibility: city clerk services, election services, and mail services. Under city clerk services, city clerks manages the agenda process of the city council and council standing committee meetings. We attend and record the minutes of the city council and the council standing committee meetings, as well as process resolutions. We act as the agent of service for claims, summons, and subpoenas and appeals filed with the city. Last year, there were a total of about 700 claims, summons, and subpoenas and appeals received in total. We audit fiscal transactions such as your ACH, e-payables, check register, and the payroll. Last year, we conducted 247 reviews of those. We maintain the city charter and the municipal code, so any ordinances that are adopted and passed by the city council, we ensure that those are published in accordance with our municipal code and make sure that those are codified into our online municipal code so the public is aware of any changes to our code. We administer the oath of office to the newly elected council members, as well as newly appointed boards, commissions, and committee members, and also all newly hired employees. We act as the Political Reform Act filing officer, so we process all of the Fair Political Practices Commission forms, such as your annual statement of economic interest and campaign filings. We have a total of about 700 form filers. We publish legal notices, so all notices for city council hearings, as well as planning commission hearings and bid notices. We process and respond in coordination with the city attorney's office all public records requests. Last year, we processed a little over 1,000 of those public records requests. And under city clerk services, finally, we act as the records manager for the city to ensure records are maintained properly and ensure the city's legislative history is preserved for many years to come. Under election services, I serve as your elections official for the City Council and Modesto City School Board of Education. That's mandated by the Elections Code and our city charter. Mail services is responsible for the sorting, metering, and delivering of mail throughout various city departments. They're all listed in the slide. I'll name a few: Maddox, the Center Plaza, as well as the Water Department. Mail services processes about a monthly average of 8,500 pieces of metered mail and delivers about 14,000 pieces of post office mail to various locations. The duties of the city clerk are mandated by the city charter, municipal code, Brown Act, Public Records Act, state law, and the Political Reform Act. Next slide is the org chart and the department staffing for the city clerk's office. As mentioned earlier, I serve as your city clerk. I'm one of 4 charter officers. The several divisions under the city clerk's office. Under city clerk services, we have 3 full-time employees, 1 assistant city clerk, Dana Sanchez, a deputy city clerk, Andrea Cook, and then Reina Mendoza, deputy city clerk, is funded through Measure H. As mentioned earlier, I serve as your elections official for the city. Under mail services, we have 2 full-time administrative office assistants too. That would be Aurora Jacobson and Vanessa Hunsinger. Here's another chart of the full-time employee history for the office of the city clerk, commencing with fiscal year 16-17 all the way through the current year. Prior to 2008, staffing in the city clerk's office consisted of 6, but when the economic recession hit, the Great Recession hit, we were unfunded a position, and thanks to Measure H and with the approval of City Council, we were reallocated that additional deputy city clerk position. Departmental division revenues and expenditures. Here's an overall chart that depicts an overview of our revenue and expenditures from fiscal year 2021-22 through the proposed budget. We are funded through the general fund. As mentioned earlier, Measure H funds that additional deputy city clerk position, and then mail services is an ISF fund, or internal services fund. City clerk's office revenue and expenditures, also a history from 2021 through 2022. We have a very minimal revenue source and are funded funded strictly through the general fund. Next slide is City Clerk's Election Fund. This is a chart of our revenues and expenditures, again depicting 2021-22 through the proposed budget. There is some revenue received during election years that is paid through Modesto City Schools. That's a cost that they pay us for the cost of us administering their election. For fiscal year for this current fiscal year, you will see that there is no revenues. However, we did receive $8,800 for the cost to administer the 2024 election. Under Mail Services, is an ISF fund, as mentioned earlier, Internal Services Fund. This is also depicts 21-22 all the way through the proposed budget. And again, those are the costs to process mail to the various city departments. Impacts of Measure H on the city clerk's office. Measure H has been a tremendous positive impact to our department. That has allowed for the restoration of the deputy city clerk position, which has increased our productivity, mostly in regards to our public records requests. As mentioned earlier, last year we received over 1,000. They continue to increase each year, so having an additional deputy city clerk process those has been very helpful. It's created valuable cross-training and training opportunities for our staff, and I will say that our staff is dedicated to bettering their skill set, and we strive to have organizational excellence. I have 2 employees right now that are going through Certified Municipal Clerk Program, and then I have 1 deputy city clerk, Andrea, that has just recently attained her records management certification through the state of California, and then I'm currently pursuing my master municipal clerk certification. It's also improved support for the city council. It's enhanced assistance to the city council by allowing us to now have 2 assist with the council meetings, as well as some of the city council standing committee meetings. It's improved staff coverage during the lunch hours. We field quite a bit of calls during the lunch hour, as well as we have a counter where we have quite a bit of the public that will show up during the lunch hour. Now we are able to have 2 staff members cover the lunch hours, where one can focus on answering the calls and the other can provide a front counter service. It's also allowed for the council faster completion of our Scan Snap project. If you recall, that was the scanning of our historical records dating from 1884 to date. That was projected to be a 5-year project, and because of the addition of the deputy city clerk, we were now able to finish that in 3 years' time, and it's all available for the public. Our departmental priorities for fiscal year 2025-26 and the year thereafter. Under the city clerk's office, it's to maintain, and I'll look at this because I cannot see that far, it's a little small for me. Maintain high quality and efficient services for the mayor, council, and most importantly, the public. Maintain 100% Brown Act compliance by timely posting all the city council and council standing committee agendas. Last year, we had a total of 75 agendas that were posted, and they were all posted in 100% compliance with the Brown Act. Complete the preservation of the city's 40 historical books, which are the books dating from 1884 to date that are handwritten. That's estimated to be a 7-month project. And then modernizing the city clerk's office through technology with an electronic claims and applications process to reduce paper usage, but also for tracking reasons. Also implementing a boards and commissions module for the managing of our various advisory groups. As you know, we have about 25 citizens advisory groups, and having a dedicated system to manage those various boards, commissions, and committees and members and manage the onboarding process will be helpful, as well as upgrading our agenda management on-base system that we're currently commencing. And then in partnership with the city manager's office and IT, install a digital billboard for council and council standing committee meetings to be able to efficiently publish those meetings or post them on a digital billboard. And then partnering with the community and media relations to attract more applicants for boards, commissions, and committees through paid targeting ads. Under the election services, the goal is to remain updated on election law and legal updates year-round, such as attending the new law and elections seminar to prepare us for the 2026 election, conduct the November 3rd, 2026 general election with integrity and precision. We will have 3 council seats and 4 school board seats. The nomination period will open July 13th, 2026 and will close on August 7th, 2026. However, we start preparing well in advance of that nomination period. Commencing early January, we will start reviewing all of our election forms, the nomination documents, ensuring that that's all updated. We start to assemble the candidate guides for the city council and the school board elections. We update our webpage. We prepare an item to be brought to council calling for the election. And then we also make sure that the notice of election is published well before the deadline, which is before your nomination period opens. For mail services, goals are to cross-train in both divisions to ensure coverage in all of our areas. And then also reduce vehicle gas consumption by calling out departments before traveling. There are times when mail services will go to an outside department and they have very minimal mail or no mail at all. So now we are going to be calling ahead of time to ensure that there is outgoing mail or there is mail to be delivered in order to help with that gas consumption. And then development of standard operating procedures for mail services. And with that, that completes my presentation and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Diane, for that wonderful report. Your unit is small but mighty. Any questions from the committee's members? No? Vice Mayor? I do have a question. You articulated quite a few responsibilities that your office has. One that I didn't hear you reference, but I thought your office did administer was being aficionados, or aficionados, I'm not quite sure, officiating over wedding ceremonies.
City Clerk Services under the government code is able to officiate weddings. However, we have not implemented that here. That would require an item to go to council because you establish a fee. And
I see. Okay, that was something that you had spoken of, but we have not implemented that as of yet. I see. Okay, very good. Okay, no more questions from the committee. Any questions from the mayor or Councilmember Ricky? None? Okay. Then we'll open it up to, thank you, Diane. We'll open it up to the public. Does anyone have any questions for our city clerk? Seeing none, bringing it back to the committee. Any final comments?
I do have a comment. One of the reasons why we hired you is because you wanted to focus on training your staff. And I see that you're doing that, and my hat's off to you. You're making your staff a better for the city and also giving them the expertise they need to go on with their life. My hat's off to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor? The Mayor, Councilmember Ricky, any final comments? Okay.
I will make one comment, is that I get regular reports, and I really appreciate that, but none of this was new to me. It's impressive with the number of commissions, and it's really great seeing our deputy city clerk and others that are clerking our committee meetings. I just think it's really great to see that, so that we have that interaction, and it's very clear that they're very well trained at what they do and very competent at what they do, and I appreciate that.
I echo those sentiments. Thank you for all you guys do. Again, you are small but mighty, and how you quantify your workload is amazing, and you all do it with such a friendly smile and always just willing to help in any way, and couldn't do what we do without your team. So thank you very much. Finally, we have our last charter officer, and no pressure. We have the Office of the City Auditor. Welcome.
All right, good evening, everyone. Colleen Rosillas, City Auditor, and my goal is to get us out of here in 6 minutes. So here we go. That's right, time me. So, City Auditor's Office, our goal is to reduce risk and improve performance and controls. Our goal is really to think about accountability and transparency to the public. We're also thinking about how we can be better stewards of public funds. The City Auditor's Office's duties are outlined in the charter, and I will not read all of these, but we do work that supports internal services and public services so that city staff can provide better public service. We do that by reporting to the Audit Committee through the City Council. Our work, as you know, has been outsourced for a couple of years to Moss Adams. So we bring in teams depending on the audit program and the specific type of work. Today we have about 15 people working across, I think we have 4 active projects plus our ongoing services. And we pull on folks from across the firm. We have about 400 who we can pull on if we need that specialize in state and local government. The office was vacant for some time and was contracted in late 2023, and you see that as reflected in this chart. You will also see that reflected in the office's expenditures. So we'll see kind of as it has gone up, as the contract has gotten into place over the last several years. The professional services budget for internal audit services is $250,000 a year. We're not requesting an increase in this biennium, and internal audit does not generate revenue. It's fully funded by the general fund like other charter officers. Our goals essentially remain the same as last year. Our goal is to, again, reduce risk, improve internal controls and performance by conducting those internal and performance audits. We also have instituted this year a very robust tracking and validation process of internal audit recommendations and other corrective actions recommended by civil grand juries and your external auditors, so that we can report back to the public, hey, here's what the auditors said we should do, and here's how we're actually doing that. And we'll provide the audit committee with an update on that next week. We'll provide all of you with an annual update when we present our annual work plan for next year. Just a note that we do have some adjustments in the budget this year. So prior to contracting the function, the auditor's office was budgeted for multiple full-time staff. These proposed adjustments would reduce 2 of those positions to reflect those current operations. It would also add a little bit of contingency, about 10% of the budget, should anything come up throughout the year that we have unplanned work that arises. And that clocks me in at 3 minutes, so back to you for questions.
Good job. Any questions from the committee?
2.5 minutes.
Do you have any questions?
I do have any questions. So, being our auditor for 2 years, how what's the word I want to use here? How has the department's been very open in sharing the information? And have you seen any major issues that we have here in Modesto?
Yeah, actually, folks have been very open from the first minute that we arrived. All department heads, all folks that we talked to were really happy that we were here. I think folks were just happy that there was an internal auditor in place after a long time with that role vacant. But also people are really interested in getting better, right, and providing public service more effectively. I think in tandem with Measure H, which has been a boost to that real focus on the core priorities of the community, it's been really nice to be able to work hand in hand with departments to help them achieve those goals.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question. How many internal audits would you guess your office has conducted this fiscal year?
I think we had about 6 planned this year.
6. And are those made available in some capacity or reference to the public on the website?
Yeah, once they're complete and have been approved by council or accepted by council, they get uploaded to the city auditor's webpage.
Wonderful, thank you. Vice Mayor, do you have any questions? Okay, and does the council have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, seeing none, does anyone in the public have any questions? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the committee for final comments. Council, final comments? Okay, well, that concludes our evening. We will resume again tomorrow, starting with department presentations at 8:30 in the morning. Thank you, everyone, very much. Drive home safely, and thank you for all your work.